Chapter 261, Young Master. Tartaglia Lu Jingming watched Xingjian in the arena with intense focus. Her black hair fell like a waterfall, her presence cold as frost, keeping everyone at arm's length. Yet the fox ears that crowned her head softened that chill with a touch of unexpected cuteness. Her outfit managed to be both modest and daring. Her long, shapely legs in black stockings drew the eye, and despite a slightly petite frame, she was surprisingly curvy, so much so she couldn't see her toes when she looked down. Her precise swordplay, deep combat experience, and bone-deep frost powers all made one thing clear: she was no lightweight. That Meng Hongqian had managed to summon this top-tier combatant from the Zero World, the youngest void hunter in history, was extraordinary luck. Watching the duel from the side was another servant whose master was Wang Chuer. Like Xingjian, she was a cultivation fanatic who loved testing herself in battle. She was the Valkyrie of Destiny at her peak, Bianca Ataegina, known as Durandal. When two equally beautiful, equally powerful, equally battle-obsessed fighters met, sparks were inevitable. Since their first meeting, Xingjian and Durandal had often arranged sparring sessions as if they'd found the perfect rival and partner, forging a friendship that felt even deeper than the one between their masters. Durandal, shorter than she appeared, nevertheless exuded a tall, heroic charisma. Clad in blue and white Valkyrie armor, bright knight excelsis, she gripped the sixth divine key, the Black Abyss White Flower. The armor's smooth, gleaming lines set off the dimly glowing key in her hand, intensifying her heroic aura. If the Black Abyss White Flower weren't a weapon and not a spirit signifier, some might have mistaken her for Lu Jingming's sister. On the Douluo Continent, spirits often symbolized bloodline legacy, and sharing a spirit could imply ancestral ties. Though Durandal was only a memory body, she retained all the abilities of her true self. The version of the Black Abyss White Flower she held wasn't as formidable as the original, but the authorities of decay and creation inside it were genuine. Lu Jingming still remembered Gu Yue's amused expression when she saw Durandal wield it and found himself laughing quietly. Just as everyone's attention turned back to the arena, someone nearby couldn't contain himself. The speaker was a young man standing beside Xiao Hongqian, dressed in gray, with short orange hair, a slim build, and a red mask slashed diagonally across his face. He stared at Xingjian and Durandal with eyes that glowed not with mere admiration, but with a raw, burning thirst for combat. "Partner, I can't wait to get into the fight. Is there any way? Let your sister's servant face me," he shouted. Xiao Hongqian, who'd been holding his sister, twitched the corner of his mouth. His servant was indeed a battle maniac. He'd challenged almost every strong opponent he could find. He'd even tried to take on Jing Liu once and had been beaten nearly to a pulp. After that, he never dared challenge Jing Liu again. According to him, Jing Liu reminded him too much of his master, an unpleasant memory, and the gap in strength had been too great. That kind of fight wasn't an exhilarating duel. It was a one-sided, merciless crushing. Despite his obsession with battle, the young man was sharper than he seemed. He could adapt and employ other tactics when needed, but deep down he craved direct, thrilling fights. He could also control that urge enough not to be ruled by it. He was the 11th harbinger of the fools, young Master Tartaglia, the servant summoned by Xiao Hongqian. On the day he was summoned, he'd immediately beaten up his master, declaring that trust could only be built through combat. Though Xiao Hongqian was relatively weak, Tartaglia grudgingly acknowledged his potential. Weak, perhaps, but with room to grow, and thus conceded the title partner to him. Lu Jingming, watching the lively scene, couldn't help but think of his teacher Skirk, the cool, elegant swordswoman who resembled Jing Liu. If master and disciple ever went head-to-head, the spectacle would be electrifying. "He's your brother-in-law, right?" Tartaglia asked suddenly, turning to Xiao Hongqian with a mischievous glint. "Does he have a grudge against you?" Tartaglia sensed Xiao Hongqian's motives at once. "Not yet. Are you going to fight or not?" he pressed. Xiao Hongqian's lips twitched. His expression flickered with amusement and irritation. "Fight? Of course I'll fight. I felt the chi on that guy from a distance. He definitely looks strong. Much stronger than you, partner." Tartaglia didn't refuse a challenge to a strong adversary. Even knowing he was being prodded, he didn't care. He welcomed the prospect. He shot back at Xiao Hongqian with a couple of cheeky retorts, which only twisted Xiao Hongqian's face further. What did he mean, much stronger than him? Xiao Hongqian thought indignantly. Did he imply he was weak? Hadn't he been the top genius at the Sun Moon Royal Soul Engineer Academy? The crowd around them buzzed with expectation. Whether provoked or sincere, the promise of more fights, especially between such fiery personalities, only heightened the tension in the arena. Chapter 262, Lei Muan in St. Freya Academy, where masters gathered like clouds, calling oneself the #1 genius, felt ridiculous. There were simply too many prodigies. A boast like that would likely end in a thrashing. Xiao Hongqian had learned to be more self-aware. After taking his share of beatings, his arrogance had been tempered. Still, the young master was itching for a real fight, especially against Lu Jingming. As Skirk's disciple, the young master was versed in a host of martial techniques and had a wealth of combat experience. A clash with him promised practical lessons worth learning. It's been a while since he's shown his full strength, the young master thought. I wonder how much he's improved. From the spectator stands, Ye Gai watched Lu Jingming and the young master stroll toward another training ground and felt a spark of interest. Is Ming very strong? Asked a quiet girl in a wheelchair beside her. She had long pink hair, a shining halo above her head, and small wings at her back, more angelic than Ye Gai herself. Though she was summoned to serve Ye Gai, she had a fond impression of the white-haired young man who always called her Sister An. Lu Jingming understood her well, and despite being a bit of a flirt, Lei Muan had always struck him as adorable. Yes, very strong, Ye Gai answered solemnly. Lu Jingming's talent was obvious. After so much time away, none could say how far he had risen. Lei Muan smiled gently. Then, almost casually, she produced a pitch-black sniper rifle and brought its scope to her eye. Through the lens, Lu Jingming's handsome face filled the view. For a moment, the boy in the scope seemed to sense something. He turned his head and, impossibly, his gaze met hers through the scope. Recognizing the look, Lu Jingming winked at Lei Muan and flashed an almost disarmingly handsome smile. She couldn't help returning the gesture. Whether he really saw it or not didn't matter. As a sniper, the art of concealing intent and presence was fundamental, and the fact that Lu Jingming had noticed her small action said a lot about his perception. That single instant was proof enough of his extraordinary sensitivity and intuition. Ye Gai had not exaggerated. Sister Anne can be mischievous sometimes, Lu Jingming chuckled, shaking his head. Lei Muan, originally a character from Arknights, was one of the many waifus he favored in his previous life. Quiet and gentle, she embodied the ideal older sister image. Her pink hair gave her a distinctly coy edge when she was comfortable around close friends, but to strangers she maintained a dignified, virtuous bearing. St. Freya Academy alone housed several people blessed with luck and chosen by the Holy Grail as masters. Besides Lu Jingming, there were Zhang Lexuan, Wang Youyi, Ye Meng Hongqian, Xiao Hongqian, and naturally Gu You, the female lead of her generation and co-leader of the spirit beasts, who possessed the luck of Douluo's star. With so many masters in one academy, the total number across the Douluo Continent had surely outstripped anyone's earlier expectations. The sheer count of masters and summoned servants was already beyond the old norm. If St. Freya's numbers were impressive, Shrek academies were likely even more staggering. Shrek had more individuals touched by luck. The Shrek Seven Devils, Ma Xiao Tao, and others of Huo Yuhao's generation all had the potential to become masters. The power balance on the Douluo Continent was visibly shifting. The old pattern of one superpower and 3 weak might soon be overturned by these summoned servants, unless, of course, the Sun Moon Empire, the presumed superpower, simply grew even stronger. Lu Jingming thought that likely. "Brother, don't go for a divided soul against me," the young master warned, making a swift gesture. 2 water blades shaped from elemental hydro appeared in his hands, flowing and glinting with a cold edge. He was careful to remind Lu Jingming, this fight should be straightforward. "Sorry, I was just a bit distracted. Let's begin," Lu Jingming replied with a polite smile. A moment's inattention before a duel was disrespectful, but the young master wasn't petty. He only wanted a good fight. They launched at each other like arrows loosed from a bow. In an instant, they closed 100 meters and struck out with simultaneous kicks. Invisible chi rippled between them, wind eddied, and their clothes snapped loud in the surge. The commotion drew some spectators away from Xinjianya and Yulandair's match. When they realized Lu Jingming was one of the combatants, more heads turned. He rarely appeared in public, so any display of his ability attracted attention. "You were right, he's amazing!" The young master grinned when Lu Jingming easily blocked his attack. But the next moment, Lu Jingming's power manifested, and the young master's smile fell. Boom! Black and red lightning crackled from Lu Jingming, stirring a violent shockwave that sent the young master skidding backward. Lu Jingming offered a sheepish explanation. "Let's be clear, I like pretty cute girls, so stay away from me." The young master blinked, a little thrown by the odd comment. "I know that, brother, but your words make me sad. I still want to get closer to you," he protested, then focused on the fight. His twin water blades merged into a long bow. Several water arrows took shape and streaked through the air like meteors toward Lu Jingming. Hydrovision, allowing him to materialize weaponry on the fly, sparing him the need to carry an arsenal. Lei Muan kept watching through her scope, lips curving with amusement. The water arrows flew, and she found herself leaning forward, curious to see how Ming would handle them. Chapter 263, Extreme Evil Skill, Whale Devour Annihilation. Then forget it. Go find someone else. Lu Jingming's Black Abyss spear materialized in his hand. With a flick of his wrist, several spear glints shot out like scattered stars, intercepting and detonating the incoming water arrows one by one. He had no desire to get along with young master. If they got close, that man would be hunting fights every day, and Lu Jingming would have no time left for intimacy with his wives. "Brother, you use a spear? Funny, so do I." Young master moved with a flash, the water blade in his hand reshaping instantly into a long spear. He thrust it violently toward Lu Jingming. Without hesitation, Lu Jingming's left hand formed a lightning spear that shimmered and was thrown to meet it. The two spears collided with a thunderous boom. Water and lightning surged, intertwining across tens of meters. Lightning and thunder braided through the air as Lu Jingming, ringed in crackling energy, shot upward like an eagle. Endless bolts cascaded down onto the training ground as a torrential rain of thunder. Since condensing his spirit core, Lu Jingming's spirit power recovered at an astonishing rate, comparable to a titled Douluo, so he could expend spirit power freely. The sacred mark of thunder and the authority of the thunder demon god from True Lightning meant his lightning techniques cost him very little. His spirit core could also siphon energy from the air and recover between uses. Even prolonged combat would strain him little. Young master was similar. Born of negative energy, he could absorb negative energy to recover. The Hydro God's eye he wore let him draw in water elements for restoration, effectively giving him a titled Douluo's recovery as well. Amid the roaring waves, he formed a massive water sphere that steadied and blocked the lightning, then slipped out of the elemental maelstrom unscathed. Under his control, the water condensed into several long swords that hummed with a cold sword intent and swept toward Lu Jingming. From the stands, Ji Yingying's pupils constricted. Young master had already shown mastery of many weapons since the duel began. Now his control of flying sword forms carried real sword intent, evidence of serious swordsmanship. Ji Yingying, who loved testing himself against strong opponents, watched with keen interest. Lu Jingming refused to be outmatched. He shaped a sword finger with his right hand, and lightning swords formed behind him, their lightning sword intent leaping skyward. The lightning blades and water blades clashed, dozens of flying swords weaving and colliding in a dazzling storm. "Ha-ha! Exhilarating!" Young master laughed, then unleashed a high-pressure water blade tens of meters long. "Good," Lu Jingming answered, driven by the rush of battle. His black long spear radiated a deathly aura as he lunged. When it met the water blade, the shock rippled outward, scraping a layer from the training ground. Lightning and water braided into dreamlike light and shadow, flashing wildly. The spectators strained to keep sight of them, but Lu Jingming and young master moved faster than normal vision could follow. They became two invisible phantoms within the elemental maelstrom. Even the wind from their movements shredded the marble floor as if it were paper. Fortunately, Both fighters were masters of control. Neither leaked excess power, otherwise the arena might have been reduced to ruins. True master fights often aren't about spectacle, but about nuance. Tiny openings, precise clashes, the ultimate test of strength, speed, reaction, and technique. Every strike revealed deep combat comprehension and flawless self-control. At the edge of the arena, Xinjianya and Yulandai, having just finished their training, watched with focused eyes. To their level, Lu Jingming and Young Master were clearly Grandmaster caliber in weaponry and combat. Young Master's prowess needed no comment. Lu Jingming, trained since childhood by Jingliu, had been refined by tireless instruction, on top of respectable natural talent. Though he couldn't match Young Master's all-weapon mastery, in spear and sword technique, he was no inferior. Lu Jingming's spear arced like a nimble dragon, after-images trailing as cold spear glints flashed. Black and red lightning, laced with decay, struck repeatedly at Young Master's water-formed weapons, dismantling them piece by piece. If Young Master couldn't reconstitute his weapons quickly with his elemental control, he would be hard-pressed to withstand Lu Jingming's style, which specialized in destroying his opponent's arms. In brutal combat, there were no rules about elegance. Weapon breaking was a brutal, effective tactic, and it often rattled the enemy's mind. "Brother, your power is dangerous. I can't hold back anymore." Young Master flickered, barely evading a lightning-fast spear. A shallow scar opened on his face where decay-infused lightning grazed him. Black cracks spiderwebbed across his cheek, and black negative energy seeped from them. Yet he seemed unconcerned by the wound, wearing an excited, feral grin. Suddenly, a violent tide of water swept the arena, lifting Young Master into the air. "Extreme evil skill, whale devour annihilation." His roar shook the training ground. He at last unleashed the extreme evil skill he had learned from Skirk. The technique traced its origin to the universe's great calamity, the extreme evil Sertralaki being Skirk's teacher. The torrential flow instantly reshaped into a gargantuan whale that surged from the ground. The water whale bore an overwhelming predatory aura, lunging at Lu Jingming like a ravenous beast set to devour all. "Focus, pinnacle, annihilation." Lu Jingming's face was grave. Gripping his spear in one hand, black and red lightning compressed at the tip as if all destructive force in the world converged on that single point. He was using this self-created spirit ability for the first time. Chapter 264, Single Chapter Explanation. Chapter 257 was blocked. It passed my review, but some sensitive readers reported it, so there's nothing I can do. Since it upset some of you, I won't write that scene in detail anymore. I'll just gloss over those events from now on. Sigh. Chapter 265, Extinction and Extreme Evil. When Lu Jingming moved, his black abyss spear was aimed straight at the Young Master. Death, destruction, decay, and lightning braided together at the spear tip, condensing into a tiny ink-black dot that looked like a miniature black hole, an aura of annihilation that seemed capable of devouring the entire world. He thrust the spear forward, and for an instant the whole arena plunged into boundless darkness. The annihilation spear intent was like a peerless blade, mercilessly slicing through the void realm, a shocking black line drawn across a spotless white sheet. Under that fierce intent, the massive whale was cleaved neatly in two. The water that had been charged with raw elemental power suddenly seemed to lose its life. The water elements themselves at that moment were infused with the concept of death and turned into ordinary, powerless water. This was the true power of death. Nothing could escape it, not even the elements of water. The Young Master stared at the scene, cold sweat beading on his forehead, and reflexively glanced at the deep black chasm yawning beside him. Had he not dodged at the last instant, he would have been severed in half. That one spear had not only smashed through his proud extreme evil technique, it had split the training ground in two, leaving a bottomless, ink-dark rift in the earth, like a gruesome wound that testified to the cataclysmic blow. The whole arena fell into a deathly silence. Every student stared at Lu Jingming and his black spear in terror. The shock of that strike made them feel as if they had seen their own deaths flashed before them. The fear sank into their bones, and their hearts seemed to stop. Then, after a beat of stunned quiet, the Young Master burst into a wild, manic laugh. While laughing, He yanked the crimson mask down from his forehead and pressed it firmly over his face. "Brother, forgive me. I underestimated you. Let us fight to the death, Devil King armament." At his shout, tides swelled across the training ground and purple lightning leapt into being. Water and lightning elements entwined and fused like intimate partners, triggering a dazzling electro-elemental reaction. Under that augmentation, the young master's aura swelled more than tenfold. The red mask took on a majestic, mysterious air. Dark armor gleamed coldly, and his cape billowed in the lightning's glow. Only when he donned his Devil King armament did the young master truly display his full strength. "Come on, Holy Spear Reversal." Lu Jingming's lips curved into an excited smile. He was already intoxicated by the battle. There were few opponents on the Douluo Continent who could make him fight with such abandon, and the young master was unquestionably one of them. Dark mist roiled around Lu Jingming and quickly condensed into night black armor. Black and red electric motes danced behind him like agile ribbons. Against the young master's domineering Devil King armament, Lu Jingming's gear was no less spectacular. Two thunderous roars, one black, one purple, exploded as two brilliant lightning flashes clashed in midair. Each contact between the long spears struck like a stirring war chant in the void, leaving trails of blinding, dazzling light. Both men, clad in dark armor and wielding long spears, commanded lightning with ferocious speed and power. Their similarities were striking, just as their masters Jinglu and Skirk resembled each other, but their fighting styles diverged in key ways. The young master's extreme evil technique emphasized elemental power, combining lightning and water to deliver explosive, overwhelming strikes. Lu Jingming's spear art, however, evolved from the sword art Jingliu had painstakingly taught him. It prized the expression of intent, pursuing a spear intent that annihilated all things, delivering fatal blows with an invisible yet irresistible force. "So strong, I've decided. Tomorrow I'll drag them into a full-power training match." Hoshimiya watched the clash with rapt attention. Her fox ears twitched playfully as if sharing in her master's excitement, her eyes shining with the hunter's joy. She followed every movement of Lu Jingming and the young master, as if to imprint each technique into her memory. Durandal focused on Lu Jingming with even greater interest. As another wielder of the Black Abyss White Flower, she was fascinated by how differently he used it. Lu Jingming's mastery of the Black Abyss's decaying power was evidently deeper than hers. For Durandal, the Black Abyss White Flower was primarily a weapon, an external tool. For Lu Jingming, it was a spirit, an extension of himself. That distinction mattered. A weapon remains outside. A spirit becomes part of one's very power. Durandal's talents were not inferior. She was Shixel's strongest Valkyrie, but her priorities had been different. She focused on enhancing her own physical strength, not on probing the spirit's inner mysteries. Lu Jingming, by contrast, had treated the Black Abyss as part of himself and poured himself into researching it. Take the Annihilation Spear Lu Jingming had just used. That technique didn't just decompose matter on a physical level. It could imprint the concept of death onto things, allowing water elements, which ordinarily have no concept of death, to carry the attribute of death. Lu Jingming had pushed the Black Abyss's decay and decomposition toward the mysterious territory of the death concept domain. He had moved from mere physical decomposition to the ability to imbue things with death at a metaphysical level. The Black Abyss White Flower in his hands was showing a unique form, deviating from its prototype. Durandal, as another user of the Black Abyss White Flower, knew what that implied. With her current methods, she could only decompose water. She could not endow water with the concept of death itself. The outward results might look similar, but the underlying meanings were utterly different. A gleam of interest shone in Durandal's eyes as she watched Lu Jingming. She wanted to grow stronger, and she wanted to learn. Another fierce collision sent shockwaves through the arena, and the young master shouted, "Brother, don't die! Extreme evil technique, Angel's demise." A colossal whale-like roar echoed through the void realm as destructive energy billowed from the giant wound in the phantom whale. The violent current of power pulsed and swelled as the young master drew it onto the spear in his hands. Purple lightning and rushing water fused into a single, world-shattering attack. This was every ounce of the young master's power, pushed to the human limit, so near to the domain of gods that only one more step would carry him into that realm. That full-power strike rivaled a limit Douluo's all-out blow, its force comparable to the terrifying burst of a level 9 fixed soul guidance cannon shell detonated at point-blank range. Mortal World's face went white. He had only wanted to see Lu Jingming suffer a little. He never meant for things to spin so far out of control. He certainly did not want the other party to die. Durandal's expression hardened, her grip tightening. The entire training ground held its breath as young master's full-power blow hurtled forward. Chapter 266, Istaroth, Ruler of Time. Xiao Hongchen glanced warily at Meng Hongchen beside him. Her face was drawn with worry. Her delicate hands were clenched tight. He inwardly groaned. If Lu Jingming really got hurt, his infatuated sister might actually stab someone. "Don't you dare die!" Xiao Hongchen muttered under his breath, eyes flicking between Meng Hongchen and the battlefield, anxiety written across his face. "And you too, don't die. It would be a shame." Lu Jingming answered nothing, only smiling faintly. He wanted to see young master and skurk, master and disciple, fight. If young master died by his hand, where would be the fun in it? He pushed the black abyss to its limit. A chilling, deathly aura erupted from him. Behind him, a phantom of a gray-winged angel flashed into being, an incarnation of death itself. "Hear me, death-announcing angel!" Lu Jingming roared, and the power of death took shape. The angel raised a glowing sword of end. Its blade shimmered with a deathly light, as if recounting the end of all things. "Not good." Yulander and Xingjian Ya's faces drained of color. They realized at once what this meant. Lu Jingming and young master had both stopped holding back. With their full strength unleashed, such a clash would likely leave someone dead or gravely wounded, maybe even both of them. What had been a friendly spar had devolved into a desperate, hot-headed confrontation. Boys in the heat of battle rarely knew how to stop. Once their emotions flared, restraint vanished, unlike them, who could tell when to back off. Yulander and Xingjian Ya exchanged a look and, without a word, launched themselves down from the viewing platform like twin comets, intent on intervening. But it was already too late. "Stop them, Istaroth!" At that critical instant, a clear, anxious voice rang out. All eyes turned to the grandstand. Gu Yue stood there, and at her side was a white-haired girl. A braid lay along the side of the girl's head, softening her melancholic expression. She wore a magnificent white dress embroidered in gold. The skirt floated like clouds. Above her head hovered a large golden halo that emitted a soft, mysterious light, as if linked to some cosmic law. Her eyes were deep and distant, tinged with sorrow, yet they held an otherworldly divinity. Istaroth tilted her head slightly. A faint gleam moved in her dreamlike golden eyes. It was as if an invisible hand pressed the gears of time. The golden temporal disk above her head pulsed with a crisp chime and gentle radiance. The instant that light bloomed, the whole world seemed to hit pause. Xingjian Ya and Yulander, still mid-descent, were frozen in their forward-leaning positions like figures in a painting. The noisy crowd fell silent, faces fixed in shock and worry, but no sound could be made. Lu Jingming and young master, their bodies about to collide, hung immobile in the air. The long spears in their hands, bristling with deathly intent, solidified as if time no longer affected them. Time had stopped. Istaroth stepped lightly toward the center of the arena, her bare feet treading on nothing, and yet making steady progress through the void realm. Her movements were graceful and composed, untouched by the mundane chi of the mortal world. When she reached the space between Lu Jingming and young master, she raised a slender hand. With a slight motion of her fingertips, the two long spears, each carrying an aura of death and ruin, were gently nudged aside by an invisible force. "It's very similar to Renava's power," Istaroth said, peering at Lu Jingming with curiosity and a hint of inquiry in her eyes. The death authority she sensed reminded her of Renava's domain, but on closer perception, she detected subtle differences. "Is this the administrator of death? Her authority is indeed close to mine." Even within the forbidden stillness, Lu Jingming's voice sounded, steady and low, carrying clearly to Istaroth. "Indeed, you bear other authorities. The shards of the Electro-Archon and the Dendro-Archon cannot resist my temporal authority." Istaroth did not seem surprised that Lu Jingming could speak inside her time-stop domain. She kept her melancholy expression, giving off an air of lazy detachment, as if nothing in the world could stir her too much. When she looked at him, she could sense the presences of Lady Jen and the great merciful Tree King. The fragments of Archon authority all originated from the heavenly principles, and Istaroth, as a sustainer of those principles, one of their four shadows, was in a sense a reflection of them. She therefore had a special sensitivity to such authority fragments. Normally, fragments of electro or dendro authority would have been stilled outright by the administrator of time. That Lu Jingming could speak at all inside the frozen domain already told her something significant. Lu Jingming didn't reply directly, he only smiled. He knew what the situation was. His true authority was higher than Istaroth's temporal power, so her time stop couldn't fully freeze him. But he also knew there was still a gap in strength. Breaking free completely would require drawing on precious true power, something unnecessary here, since Istaroth was not an enemy. As Guyue's summoned attendant, she was, in effect, an ally. "You are very interesting." "What a pity," Istaroth murmured, a touch of regret in her voice. She was currently a memory body, her recollections and power incomplete. If she were whole, she might have truly invited Lu Jingming to Tevat. A being whose authority transcended hers could, upon descent, become a new descender, a source of hope and change for that world. Listening to Istaroth's voice, so like the drifters from Mondstadt's tales, Lu Jingming felt a strange amusement. It was hard to reconcile this melancholic, radiant girl with the image of that forever bemused fellow who mumbled and sang in town squares. Istaroth brushed a strand of hair from her ear with a motion that seemed dreamlike. Unnoticed, she stepped back to Guyue's side. As soon as she returned, the frozen world, like a machine restarted, resumed its flow. Time flowed again. Lu Jingming immediately withdrew his attack. Young Master, carried by inertia, still forced out his final strike, but its direction had been subtly altered by Istaroth during the pause. Instead of letting the two lethal blows meet head-on, she had turned Young Master's spear so that it glanced past Lu Jingming, cutting air and earth instead of flesh. The redirected blow slammed into the arena floor, and a shockwave of displaced sand and stone erupted outward. The crowd gasped. Yulander and Xingjian Ya, freed from their temporal paralysis, tumbled through the air and landed, breathless and wide-eyed, having arrived moments later than intended. The two combatants were alive. Lu Jingming bore only a shallow cut across his arm. Young Master staggered but was otherwise intact, the force of his own strike having thrown him off balance and knocked the breath from his lungs. Other than some dust and a few scattered bruises, neither had died. Guyue exhaled in relief. Istaroth's golden halo dimmed to a soft glow, and she inclined her head slightly, as if accepting the world's fragile, precarious order. "You are truly an unusual one," she said softly to Lu Jingming, then turned her attention back to Guyu's side with a faint, unreadable smile. "I am glad to have seen you, even like this." From the stands, Meng Hongchen burst into tears of relief, hands pressed to her lips. Xiao Hongchen let out a long, shuddering breath, shaking with nerves and relief. Around them, spectators murmured, stunned by the spectacle they had just witnessed. A duel pushed to the precipice of death and stopped by a hand that could touch time itself. Lu Jingming collected himself, sheathing the restless shadow of the black abyss. Young Master straightened, pale but stubborn, meeting Lu Jingming's eyes. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then, quietly, as if to break tension rather than to provoke, Lu Jingming inclined his head in a small, almost gentlemanly bow. Istaroth remained near Guyue, her expression still distant, like one who dwells partly among memories. The arena slowly returned to its usual clamor, but the echoes of that suspended moment, of a girl who could pause the world and of forces that nearly ended it, lingered in everyone's minds. Chapter 267, Hoshimiya's Invitation to Practice. Eh? The young master was utterly stunned. He widened his eyes, staring in the direction where his attack had gone wrong. Then his figure froze. He slowly turned his head toward Lu Jingming, who had already sheathed his spear and stood there calm, dazed and bewildered. What was that? Xingjian and Yulander turned almost at the same time, their gazes sweeping toward Istaroth. Though they, too, had just been hit by a time stop, Their instincts as powerful warriors let them sense the source of that strange phenomenon. Everyone present felt a peculiar disorientation. They had clearly seen Lu Jingming and the young master poised to collide, but in the next instant the young master's attack had inexplicably shifted, and Lu Jingming had withdrawn. The abrupt, inexplicable change left an odd blank in their minds, as if part of their memory had been erased. Guyue's expression grew stranger still. Among the Dragon Clan's former 9 great Dragon Kings had been a Time Dragon King who wielded temporal power, but in her recollection, that Dragon King had been the weakest in cultivation among the 9. It and the Space Dragon King had been manipulated by universe law in a decisive moment, betraying the Dragon God and bringing about the Dragon Clan's downfall. And in the Douluo God realm existed a mysterious first-class god, the God of Time. Yet neither the God of Time nor the Time Dragon King, in Guyue's understanding, could truly master time. Time seemed like a taboo. Anyone trying to seize it found it hard to rise further. But the Ishtaroth before her had shown control of time that far exceeded the Time Dragon King. That Dragon King could never stop time or freeze other God King level warriors the way Ishtaroth had. When Guyue had been struck by time stop, even her main body's thoughts had been halted. The fact that her separated main body, so far away, could be frozen simultaneously proved Ishtaroth's temporal authority was beyond the Time Dragon King, and Ishtaroth was only manifesting as a servant, not at full power. Guyue had no doubt that if Ishtaroth reached her peak, she could traverse space-time freely, spanning past and future, attaining omnipresence, things the God of Time and the Time Dragon King of this world could not do. If they could, they would have long since become supreme God Kings. Guyue had known that the servant she'd summoned was exceptional, but she hadn't expected this level of power. Even though Guyue's main body had recovered most of her strength, when Ishtaroth used Time Stop, both she and her main body were frozen utterly. This gave Guyue a new, shocking appreciation for Ishtaroth's might. Forget it. Even if I don't know what just happened, that was an exhilarating fight. Brother, let's have another one sometime. You must feel the same. Blood boiling in battle, right? I can feel it. The young master grinned. To him, there was no better way to understand a person quickly than a good fight. In the heat of the battle, he had clearly sensed Lu Jingming enjoying the clash. Otherwise, Lu Jingming wouldn't have unleashed such a lethal move. The young master had himself been carried away by that intensity and had used his ultimate without restraint. You'd better pass their 2 challenges first. I won't get involved. Lu Jingming shrugged and gestured toward Xingjian and Yulander, not far away. He enjoyed combat, but he wasn't a battle maniac. One intense fight was fine. Daily duels were another matter. He preferred a slow stroll with Xia Dai, shopping with Liu Ying through bustling city streets, or lying in Robin's lap to listen to her celestial song. He wasn't foolish. He wouldn't go looking for fights like the young master. Of course, if the opponents were attractive, capable young women like Xingjian and Yulander, an occasional bout was acceptable, but not every day. Young Miss Ya, Yulander, are you getting used to it here? Lu Jingming stopped paying attention to the young master and turned to the 2 approaching servants with a gentle smile. It doesn't matter whether we're used to it, Yulander replied solemnly. As servants, our mission is to help our master win the Holy Grail War. She had always been dutiful. If she couldn't complete a task perfectly, she felt uneasy. It's all very novel. This can be considered an unprecedented form of cultivation. Xingjian spoke of cultivation casually. To her, every action, walking, sitting, lying down, could be part of cultivation, and participating in the Holy Grail War was no exception. She had no qualms. Lu Jingming still treated these memory constructs with a hint of extra care, thanks to his fondness for them in his previous life. He wasn't sure he would ever summon their main bodies, but he couldn't help being considerate. Let's have a full-strength cultivation duel. Xingjian was direct. She didn't beat around the bush. I'd actually be willing, Miss Ya, but you see, I just had an incredibly intense fight. I'm a little drained. How about next time? Lu Jingming spread his hands, genuinely not eager to jump into another battle so soon. All right then, it's a deal. We must train together next time. Xingjian's fox ears drooped instantly. Disappointment painted her face. Lu Jingming felt the urge to reach out and touch those adorable ears, but he restrained himself. His favorability hadn't reached the level where that would be appropriate. As fellow users of Black Abyss White Flower, if I can train with you, I'll definitely get stronger. Yulandir also asked to practice together, and Lu Jingming couldn't refuse two such earnest invitations. Who could say no to that? I know you won't die, but please stop making everyone so worried. After agreeing to train with the two, Lu Jingming moved over to Gu Yue. Istaroth sat to the side, casually watching ants on the ground as if counting them, while Gu Yu stared reproachfully at Lu Jingming. Yes, Aming, that was really dangerous. It's all my brother's fault. He kept pushing you to fight his servant, said Meng Hongchen as she hurried over, still showing the remnants of fear. She then shot a fierce glare at Xiao Hongchen, who was chatting with the young master in the distance. Startled, Xiao Hongchen turned to see why his younger sister was scolding him. I know, Lu Jingming answered obediently. He felt Gu Yue and Meng Hongchen's genuine concern and wouldn't betray it. Gu Yu also understood the nature of Black Abyss White Flower. Killing Lu Jingming was not easy. Even if his body took devastating damage, as long as his soul remained, complete death was difficult. He could, so to speak, pick up his head and reattach it with his current abilities. His physical resilience had become extraordinary. He could repair at a cellular level and survive blows that would kill others. He wasn't immortal like the Abundance Aeons, but his survivability rivaled that of Blade among the Stellaron hunters. Having developed Black Abyss to grant death to all things, the complementary power of White Flower had kept pace. As long as he didn't court death himself, he was unlikely to face truly lethal danger. That spectacular duel between Lu Jingming and the young master had shown the Academy what it meant to be their #1 genius. Many students who had only heard his name were now convinced by what they'd seen, and he won a host of fervent admirers, male and female, drawn to his charisma. After lingering in the training grounds for a while, Lu Jingming and Meng Hongchen bid farewell to Gu Yue and the others and left hand in hand. Lu Jingming glanced back once more at Istaroth. Gu Yue, with such a formidable servant, was undoubtedly fortunate. In the kind of Holy Grail war Lu Jingming had originally imagined, Istaroth's strength would almost guarantee victory from the very start. But the war had become complicated. Many mighty servants had appeared, and Istaroth, while strong, was no longer absolutely unrivaled. Watching Meng Hongchen leave with Lu Jing, Xiao Hongchen felt his eyelids twitch. A vague unease rose in him, an instinctive premonition that something would soon go wrong. Ming, in a few months I'll be going home. I really don't want to leave you. Meng Hongchen tucked her head into Lu Jingming's embrace, voice trembling with reluctance. She looked up, eyes full of affection and sorrow. She and Xiao Hongchen had come to St. Freya Academy as exchange students. Their exchange period was ending, and they would return to the Sun Moon Royal Soul Engineer Academy. The thought of separating from Lu Jingming pained her. Then why don't you stay? I've already prepared the betrothal gifts. I don't think Hallmaster Jing would object. Lu Jingming's voice was soft. He didn't see it as an impossible problem. With soul conductor phones now common in Haiyuan City and his abilities, he could build an information network across the continent if he wished, keeping them in constant touch even if she returned to the Sun Moon Empire. He thought marrying Meng Hongchen into his family and asking Jing Hongchen's consent should be doable. He was confident in his influence. Let's not do that. Meng Hongchen's heart leaped at the thought of marriage. Joy bloomed on her delicate face. Then she shook her head, and the light in her eyes dimmed. She knew how entangled her family was with the Sun Moon Empire. The Hongchen family, an old aristocratic house, was deeply rooted in that land. Their fate was bound to the empires. If she married Lu Jingming now and war broke out between the Sun Moon Empire and the Star Luo Empire, both her grandfather Jing Hongchen and Lu Jingming would be placed in untenable positions. Ming, I'm sorry. I don't want to make Grandpa's life harder. Meng Hongchen bit her lip, tears shining. Lu Jingming himself was powerful, and Haiyuan City was strong. The Empire's disputes wouldn't trouble him much. But Jing Hongchen was different. He had devoted his life to the Sun Moon Empire, and his family's honor was tied to it. Haha, I actually think you underestimate your grandfather. Lu Jingming said with a smile. He toyed with Meng Hongchen's waterfall-like hair and brought it to his nose, inhaling its faint, elegant scent like the sweetest fragrance in the world. He knew Hallmaster Jing well enough to believe that, though loyal, Jing Hongchen would not be blindly so. If events took an irreversible turn, Jing Hongchen had the wisdom and decisiveness to choose another path. The Hongchen family could adapt. Meng Hongchen did not know this side of her grandfather. To her, he would never betray the empire. "You're so good to me, Ming." Meng Hongchen was moved. Warmth flooded her. She rose on tiptoe, her hands circling Lu Jingming's neck, eyes full of devotion, and slowly offered her lips. Time at that moment seemed to slow and then hold its breath. Chapter 268, Brave Dream sunlight poured in, casting two long shadows across the floor. It had been Meng Hongchen's first intimate experience, and she was awkward and tender, like a girl who had never truly known the world. Lu Jingming, by contrast, moved with practiced ease. Seeing Meng Hongchen's nervous confusion, he only smiled and guided her with warm, steady hands. Their lips met, and time seemed to both stop and stretch at once. After a long while, when Meng Hongchen trembled slightly from short breath, Lu Jingming reluctantly eased away. She went limp in his arms, cheeks flushed, shy and dazed. "Ming, I want," she whispered, squeezing those few words out as if gathering every last scrap of courage. Her voice was so soft it would have been inaudible if he hadn't been right there. "All right?" How could he refuse her earnest plea? A flash of heat passed through his eyes. He lifted her effortlessly into his arms, as if she were the only weight in the world. Space rippled around them, and they vanished from the spot. At that moment, Xiadi, who had rushed over, saw them. A choked whimper escaped her, defeated and pained. Under Curtilla's careful urging, she had finally mustered the courage to confess to Lu Jingming, only to be too late. Meng Hongchen had already claimed him. She collapsed onto her heels, eyes full of loss, like a wounded, fluttering moth. Night passed in silence. Dawn came, and golden sunlight filtered through the curtains, catching drifting motes of dust. Silky white hair spilled over a flawless shoulder. Pale skin held a faint rosiness. Jade arms, graceful collarbones, and slender legs pressed together, a perfect image of beauty. The white-haired girl lay across Lu Jingming's chest with a contented smile. Lu Jingming opened his eyes to find Meng Hongchen sleeping beside him. Her hair was rumpled on the pillow. Her face, softened by sleep, looked peaceful. He didn't wake her. With the care reserved for something fragile, he covered her with a blanket and slipped out of bed. Their night together had taught him something surprising. Meng Hongchen, though she appeared delicate, was tougher than she seemed, decided and forward, almost meat-eating in nature. Her will and endurance impressed him. She ranked far above Zhang Lexuan and nearly at the level of Ye Miko. In Lu Jingming's eyes, Meng Hongchen could be considered a worthy opponent, strong, resilient. Of course, he had still come out on top. He sighed inwardly for Zhang Lexuan, who, by his observations, was likely the weakest of the three he'd been with so far. Whether there might be others even less experienced remained to be seen, but he doubted anyone would be weaker than Zhang Lexuan. Her status as his official fiancée would be hard to maintain. He quietly washed, scrubbed away the lingering traces of the night, changed into clean clothes, and planned to prepare breakfast for Meng Hongchen. "Yo, morning, brother-in-law," someone called cheerfully. Stepping into the corridor, Lu Jingming found Xiao Hongchen exercising with Tartaglia. Xiao Hongchen returned the greeting, then froze as his eyes registered who had just emerged from his sister's room. He rubbed his eyes in disbelief, then exploded. "Lu, Ming, I'll kill you," he shouted. Seeing Lu Jingming fresh from the shower, the scene was all but self-explanatory. Meng Hongchen was the sort who could be easily swayed, and Lu Jingming was no shrinking violet. Xiao Hongchen lunged, enraged. Lu Jingming reacted smoothly, pinning him to the ground with a light, almost playful motion. "Brother-in-law, don't be mad. We're family now. I should go make breakfast for Meng," Lu Jingming said with a smile, calling him brother-in-law in a tone meant to tease and to provoke. Xiao Hongchen's face burned. "Lu Jingming, you bastard! How dare you bully my sister? Fight me to the death!" He thrashed and shouted for Tartaglia to intervene. "Tartaglia, what are you doing? Help!" Tartaglia scratched his head, befuddled. "This seems like a family matter. I shouldn't interfere," he said honestly. good at battle, poor at sibling disputes. Lu Jingming gave an exasperated roll of his eyes. In his view, Meng Hongqin had initiated things last night. He had only followed the feelings between them. Brother-in-law, that's not fair. Meng and I love each other. How can you say I bullied her? You think you can waltz in here and I'll accept it? Xiao Hongqin sputtered. He was frustrated by Lu Jingming's constant interactions with exceptional women and feared for his sister's happiness among such complicated ties. Deep down, he knew Meng Hongqin had likely acted of her own volition and that Lu Jingming wouldn't force her, but that didn't stop his anger. Lu Jing feigned a dramatic, low sigh. This is troublesome. You're going to be an uncle. If the child is born and you don't acknowledge it, Meng will be heartbroken. The words hit Xiao Hongqin like a thunderbolt. He went still, energy drained, stunned into silence. Lu Jingming suppressed a smile. On Douluo Continent, the stronger a spirit and higher a spirit rank, the harder it was to have offspring. With Lu Jingming's current state, his body quality comparable to celestial beings, and the powerful Black Abyss White Flower spirit, the odds weren't in favor of any immediate conception. Not impossible, but unlikely. He had already checked in the morning, sensitive to life energy, so he knew at a glance. There'd been no sign. Brother, you're not a good person, Tartaglia muttered, watching the teasing exchange. Lu Jingming offered his hand and helped Xiao Hongqin to his feet, brushing dust from his clothes. He wanted to keep things civil for Meng Hongqin's sake. A little teasing was fine, but not cruelty. Xiao Hongqin, still indignant, finally softened when Lu Jingming spoke earnestly. If she's wronged, I swear I won't let it happen. A man's promise. Xiao Hongqin studied his face and, though reluctant, believed him. There wasn't much else he could do. His grandfather Jing Hongqin approved of the match, and Meng Hongqin seemed happy. At the cafeteria, word of Lu Jingming's visit had the nutrition team springing into action. St. Freya Academy paid close attention to students' diets. When Lu Jingming explained his wishes, the nutritionists prepared a top-tier breakfast tailored for Meng Hongqin, balanced for both nourishment and spirit cultivation. After all, when he came personally, they would do their best. Back in the bedroom, Meng Hongqin had woken and lounged against the headboard, idly twirling a strand of her silky hair. When the door opened and Lu Jingming appeared, her face lit up. She'd expected him to take care of breakfast. She wasn't in any hurry. He sat at the bed's edge, set the tray on the bedside table, and stroked her hair affectionately. "Time for breakfast, you little lazy pig," he murmured. Meng Hongqin blinked, then sat up. The blanket slid down, and she reached out to press a hand against his chest, nestling against him like a small bird. She raised her face, eyes full of longing. Feeling the warmth of her, Lu Jingming took her slender hand, voice low and restrained. "This is what you asked for." When they stepped out together, Xiao Hongqin waited by the door with a sullen expression that softened at the sight of his sister's happiness. He led her away for the inevitable big brother talk. Lu Jingming let them go. He trusted Meng Hongqin to handle it. Watching her go, he couldn't help but admire the physical resilience of spirit masters. Though she'd lost her virginity the night before, and they'd been intimate again that morning, her bearing was unchanged. The naive girl had slipped into a mature woman without visible strain. A thought struck him. Meng Hongqin had a servant, Xingjian Ya. He hadn't thought about where Xingjian Ya had been last night. Had she been waiting outside the whole time? The idea made his scalp prickle. He glanced around but found no sign of her. Lu Jingming pinched the bridge of his nose. He'd been careless. Their exchange study days were drawing to a close. Jing Hongqin would soon come to St. Freya Academy to take Meng Hongqin, Xiao Hongqin, and the others back to the Sun Moon Empire. But not everyone might return. Ji Yingying and Jing Xian, for instance, had met the graduation standards of the Sun Moon Royal Soul Engineer Academy and had grown during their time here. Ji Yingying intended to follow Jing Liu to continue sword study at an academy full of masters and worthy opponents. He was unlikely to leave. Jing Xian's feelings for Ji Yingying were no secret. If Ji stayed, she would too. Lu Jingming admired Ji Yingying's talent and had considered recruiting him into the Fools as an executive. Xuan Ziwen, now advanced to Jujihun Daoshi, 9th-level soul instructor, would probably remain in Haiyuan City, the top tech metropolis on the continent, with endless new knowledge for a research fanatic like him. Lu Jingming half-joked that Xuan Ziwen risked working himself to death in the labs if he wasn't careful. Xuan Ziwen's position as Jing Hongqin's junior brother and Kong Deming's disciple made him crucial to the Sun Moon Royal Soul Engineer Academy. If he stayed in Haiyuan City, some trouble was inevitable, but Lu Jingming felt he'd made sufficient preparations, and Jing Hongqin would be manageable. Chapter 269, Skystrike General Kong Deming, the Silver Moon Douluo and Xuan Ziwen's teacher, had in fact already been in secret contact with Lu Jingming through other channels. Although the two had never met in person, they implicitly understood Zhang Lexuan's situation. The tangled mess in the Sun Moon Empire, the power struggles between the Holy Spirit cult, the military, and Shu Tianran's various factions had left Kong Deming deeply uneasy. Previously confident in his strength, he had tacitly supported Shu Tianran and let events unfold. But the outbreak of the Holy Grail War and the appearance of servants had shattered the old balance, forcing Kong Deming to act and look for a way to secure the Sun Moon Empire's retreat. Even after breaking through to become a super Douluo and forging his destined rank 10 spirit tool, he still felt powerless in Mingdu, the ever-shifting center of affairs. Lu Jingming agreed with Kong Deming's concerns. The trouble caused by Juzi's summoned servant alone was enough to upset the whole Douluo Continent, and Shu Tianran was still hiding his own servant, who knew what other means he had. Only a few months remained until the all-continent Advanced Soul Master Youth Elite competition in Mingdu. Lu Jingming knew the competition's ostensible purpose was a facade. Shu Tianran intended to gather all masters and servants in Mingdu under the pretext of the tournament to advance the Holy Grail War. The contest itself was a cover. The real event was the war. So Lu Jingming arranged for Wang Chuer and Ye Gai to enter the competition, while he and Robin would stay out of the public matches. With Lu Jingming's current spirit power as a spirit Douluo, and Robin and others showing spirit saint rank and condensed soul core strength, entering the tournament would be nothing but bullying the weak, pointless and unnecessary. In truth, Robin and the others were far stronger than they appeared. The power hidden behind their spirit saint facades would leave many opponents in the dust. They preferred to avoid humiliating weaker participants. Besides, with Shu Tianran's reputation for hidden agendas, whether the competition could proceed normally was uncertain. He might be holding back some major move. Tianhun Empire, Body Sect. Boom! A thunderous sound split the air. A blade of axelight, wrapped in a green gale, descended like a tear in the void, carving a brilliant streak thousands of meters long and striking a nearby mountain peak. The peak split cleanly in two, as if it were paper. The roar of collapsing rock made the whole range shudder. Dust clouded the sky, dimming the sun. The earth trembled like in an earthquake. The entire body sect shook under the impact. Poison Undying's forehead was slick with cold sweat. His muscles twitched uncontrollably. It was the body's reflex to a near-death threat. Before anyone had fully recovered from the shock, a figure appeared like lightning in front of him. She raised a long, powerful leg and kicked. Her metal-heeled boot connected with Poison Undying's body without mercy. Boom! The force of that kick shattered the air like a fragile spiderweb. Amid the sonic boom, everyone in the body sect went pale. Poison Undying, the body duo who had only recently broken through to limit Douluo and had been in high spirits, was hurled like a cannonball, slamming into the top of another mountain. Sect Master, Godfather. The body sect's elders and Princess Vina of the Tianhun Empire cried out in shock and terror. The Grand Elder, Golden Body Douluo Jinpeng, rushed to dig Poison Undying out from the ruined peak. He no longer had the grandeur he'd shown at his breakthrough. Weak, bloodied, and listless, his body suggested multiple broken bones. Poison Undying was a limit Douluo with the body spirit. His physical strength should have rivaled top-tier vicious beasts, yet a single kick had almost cost him his life. Not bad. Quite resilient, aren't you? Your so-called body spirit isn't bad at all. Above the grave silence, a clear, somewhat heroic voice sounded. A white-haired, fox-eared beauty in a green battle robe hovered in the air, an axe resting on her shoulder that gleamed with a chilling light. Green winds swirled around her like loyal guards, like all the wind elements of her world had bent to her will. Sister Fei Xiao, Didn't we agree this was just a spar? Vina stepped forward, helpless and worried. Poison Undying was her respected godfather. Fei Xiao was the servant Vina had summoned. Poison Undying had been curious and eager to test this foreign servant's might. Who would have expected that once the duel started, he would be beaten senseless and doubting his life? Within 3 moves, he had almost ended up in Yellow Springs, and Fei Xiao had clearly held back. Little Vina, it's not my fault. I did try to hold back, Fei Xiao said, a little embarrassed. She felt awkward. Knocking a master's godfather nearly to death was not something she wanted to boast about. Still, Vina had praised her godfather to the skies, saying he was a limit Douluo and a force to be reckoned with. Fei Xiao had expected a duel between experts, but Poison Undying had folded before she'd even shown much strength. She was grateful she hadn't unleashed her full power. Your Excellency, are you a god from another world to possess such strength? Poison Undying muttered, clutching his breath and staring at Fei Xiao with fanatical eyes. Even this projection, this servant, exerted pressure greater than the Snow Empress who had slain dragon god Douluo Muen. If this was only a projection, what would her true form be? A god. Some primitive worlds call me that, Fei Xiao replied indifferently. I'm only a general who leads troops into battle. To those on less advanced worlds, someone of her power might indeed be worshipped as a god. But in the vast cosmos she hailed from, such gods were common. Only the supreme star gods truly deserved that title. Poison Undying's eyes lit with joy. Vina had truly drawn a trump card. With the power Fei Xiao had displayed, even a true god might not fare better. With such a force at their side, the upcoming Holy Grail War seemed all but won. Sun Moon Empire, no matter what conspiracies you have, in the face of absolute power, they're all futile, Poison Undying declared, ignoring his injuries as he basked in gladness. Seeing Fei Xiao's strength, he had no more fears about the Soul Master competition the Sun Moon Empire planned to hold. Everyone suspected Shu Tianran's tournament had hidden tricks and traps, but it would be impossible to refuse to participate. The competition was a tradition spanning tens of thousands of years. To decline would be a blow to prestige and status. So all the factions had to send teams, and they had to take it seriously. Sister Fei Xiao, are you really just a general? Vina asked, curiosity shining in her eyes. Fei Xiao's heroic bearing seemed too grand for the simple title of general. In Vina's mind, generals were tools of imperial power. Even a great general was small beside true absolute power. In the Tianhun Empire, the supreme commander of the 3 armies was roughly a titled Douluo, worlds apart from figures like Poison Undying, so Vina could not imagine what kind of force could command someone like Fei Xiao. Hey, little Vina, worlds are very different. I'm grateful to have been summoned by you. It's a rare fate. Why not let me help you train a Qingqiu army? War isn't far from you these days. Fei Xiao chuckled. She didn't explain the differences between a Xianzhou general and a Douluo Continent general. As a Skystrike general, she had sharp insight into warfare and had already sensed the coming storm over the Douluo Continent. She had smelled imminent war and offered proactively to train Vina's troops. Vina had impressed her. She was approachable, emotionally intelligent, and not arrogant like many in imperial houses. Fei Xiao liked her. Thank you, Sister Fei Xiao. Summoning you might be the luckiest thing in Vina's life, Vina said sincerely. She didn't know precisely how Fei Xiao would train, but the servant's terrifying power convinced her. She resolved to return to the palace and urge her father to let Fei Xiao take command of the Tan Empire's elite spirit master forces for training and leadership. Coincidentally, our body sect has many talented disciples, though few are skilled in large-scale warfare. May I trouble Your Excellency Fei Xiao to train them into capable soldiers as well? Poison Undying quickly chimed in. The prospect of a master like Fei Xiao molding their disciples was too good to pass up. He could already imagine the advantages. These youngsters are promising. I agree, Fei Xiao said, sweeping her gaze over Long Aoqian and the others. They were weak now, but each showed potential. With careful polishing, they could become excellent warriors. Fei Xiao had honed her physical body to extremes. The body spirit's emphasis on physical power matched her training methods perfectly. While they could not match the celestial troops of Xianzhou in quality, a Tianhun Qingqiu army, trained well, would be more than capable in a continental war. If other empires did not reform, the Tianhun Qingqiu army might become the most powerful force on the Douluo Continent. The Sun Moon Empire's once proud five great protector hands, their Beast King-level soul conductor legions with advanced spirit tool equipment, might not withstand such a force. The Holy Grail War and the arrival of servants had already begun to shake the world. Their strength was immense, and their knowledge and systems, so different from the Douluo continents, would bring sweeping changes. Lu Jingming viewed this change positively. Absorbing knowledge from other worlds could accelerate the Douluo continent's development. In this world, there were no taboos against foreign knowledge. More was better. Under Poison Undying and Vina's vigorous persuasion, the Tianhun Emperor finally agreed to hand the Empire's elite Spirit Master forces over to Fei Xiao. With body sect disciples eager to join, it wasn't hard to foresee a powerful army taking shape under Fei Xiao's training, an army capable of shaking the continent. As Tianhun buzzed with activity, the Starluo Empire also made moves, unwilling to fall behind. The dueling empire, however, seemed strangely aloof, as if nothing happening around them mattered. In truth, the dueling apathy came from a different cause. No master had been born there in this Holy Grail War's selection. In the original fate, the dueling empire had been weak on the continent, and the only one who might have claimed luck would have been Shu Sanqi, or perhaps others possessed luck and simply weren't chosen. Chapter 270, Heather and the Immaculate Girl. Shu Sanqi is currently at Shrek Academy and cannot return to the dueling empire. Even if he could, the dueling royal family would never accept an outsider, no matter how much dueling blood he carries. As a result, the dueling empire was effectively sidelined in this Holy Grail War, failing to perceive in time the vast upheavals spreading across the continent. Without a master, a servant cannot be summoned, and without that, no one could foresee the world-shaking impact the servant's arrival would bring. Aming, I'm sorry, I couldn't make it to your coming-of-age ceremony, Shu Juju said as soon as she saw Lu Jingming, a flash of surprise and guilt in her eyes. She fell into his arms like a swallow returning to its nest, breathing in the familiar qi and wearing an apologetic expression. The Holy Grail War had made everything complicated. Between the endless crises and the shifting affairs of the Xingluo Empire, Shu Juju had been stretched thin, spending her days running from one corner of Xingluo City to another to settle mounting problems. Even now, at such an important moment, she could only spare a brief meeting in the simulated universe. Once she'd wrapped up what she could, she had wasted no time and rushed straight to Haiwan City. It's all right, Juju. It's really not a big deal. You've been working too hard. Don't wear yourself out, Lu Jingming said, smiling as he gently stroked her cheek. He understood the shortage of capable hands within the Xingluo royal family. Apart from Su Jiawei, Shu Juju was one of the few who could truly shoulder responsibility. With the Holy Grail War forcing her to act as a master and summon a servant, her burden had only deepened. He had no intention of blaming her. If anything, he was proud that his wife was so capable. Lu Jingming had grown used to delegating the daily details to others. He focused on the big picture and let people like Changli and Ningguang take care of the rest. He fancied himself even lazier than the Rock Lord Dijun, who only announced the yearly rite and left the rest to the Liwei Qixing. Lu Jingming hugged Shu Juju close and, almost without thinking, glanced past her shoulder to the short distance behind her. A servant stood there with a singular aura. My instincts weren't wrong. My saber, Hathison. I'm so glad to see you. Curtilla appeared with a gentle ripple, scepter in hand, smiling warmly at Shu Juju's servant. Caesar, it's just as surprising for me to stand beside you in this other world. Hathison, Shu Juju's saber, was a black-haired young lady wreathed in the essence of the ocean. She looked a little older than the petite Curtilla. Her refined beauty and black stockings lent her an air of mystery. Yet appearances belied her battlefield ferocity. Hathison was capable of cutting down 60,000 soldiers on her own, a veritable god of war. Her warrior's aura stood in stark contrast to her maidenly look. At the same time, there was an artist's elegance about her, a musician lost in melody. She was Curtilla's capable subordinate, a celebrated ocean demigod known as the Saber of Surging Waves. Standing side by side isn't necessarily true, Hathison. Curtilla said with a knowing smile, her tone soft but firm. There is only one holy grail. In this unpredictable grail war, there could be only one winner. Friendship and past comradeship did not guarantee the same end now. If this were Omphalos, Curtilla added, I might willingly yield the grail to you, but in this unfamiliar world, I must hold to my own principles. Hathison returned the smile. Her voice was quiet but resolute. Her eyes flicked toward Shujuju in Lu Jingming's arms, a glance that said she would not abandon her current master out of mere old loyalties. Her true body had not descended here. This place was no Omphalos. That's fine. Treat this as a dream. I'll stick to my principles. Curtilla showed no displeasure. In her eyes there was understanding. Hathison was not merely a subordinate. She was a torchbearer. They were equals in a sense. Hathison would follow Curtilla by choice because she believed in Curtilla's leadership. But if Curtilla ever strayed, Hathison would show no mercy. There's no need for animosity between you two, at least for now, Lu Jingming said, taking Shuju's hand and stepping forward. After much effort, he had finally managed to approach within 5 meters of Curtilla. Seeing him, Hathison first regarded Curtilla with surprise and then studied the man beside his master, trying to gauge what qualities had earned Curtilla's trust. Hathison, welcome to Douluo Continent. I hope this journey leaves you with a beautiful memory that belongs to you, Lu Jingming said with genuine warmth. A journey. Yes, that's the right word, Hathison murmured after a moment. She considered it carefully and agreed. In this foreign world, everything felt dreamlike and uncertain. This might indeed be nothing more than a passing journey. After brief introductions, Lu Jingming led Shujuju away, leaving the two old comrades to exchange what time they would. On the walk back, Shujuju told him how Hathison had helped the Xingluo Empire establish a surging wave saber cavalry. By channeling the power of the ocean, she purified and enhanced the cavalry's combat effectiveness. Hathison, an experienced knight commander and an ocean demigod, had quickly formed a formidable legion with Xingluo's full backing. Such a force would be a powerful asset in the shifting tides ahead. Time slipped by when they were wrapped in each other's company. Lu Jingming and Shujuju strolled hand in hand through Haiyuan City as dusk fell, street lamps blooming like stars. As always, everyone gathered for dinner, a warm, joyful occasion. The head chef tonight was Raiden Mei, gentle and virtuous as ever. Jinshi and Lady Zhen assisted, preparing a sumptuous feast. Jinshi's specialty was xiaolongbao, but these were no ordinary soup dumplings. They were a huanglong delicacy, ingeniously made so that the broth burst in your mouth, leaving a memorable aftertaste. Many servants were skilled cooks. Lei Muan's desserts were exceptional, especially her apple pie, a favorite of her sister archangels and of Lu Jingming's. The pie's sweet filling, flaky crust, and tender center had a way of banishing worries and bringing simple happiness. The gathering was lively, laughter, chatter, teasing, and the occasional tug-of-war over a dish. Seeing characters who had once only existed on screens now so vivid and alive, arguing, laughing, scrambling for food, filled Lu Jingming with an indescribable satisfaction. It felt like a dream that had come true, the beauty and joy of life made real. Oh my, it's so lively, and there are so many beautiful young ladies like flowers. Aiming, you never told me, rang a voice like a silver bell. All eyes turned to Elysia, the charming pink-haired fairy, her hair a waterfall of soft pink and her smile bright enough to drive away any gloom. It's precisely because of your personality that I haven't brought you back yet. Lu Jingming replied with a helpless smile, though his heart warmed toward Elysia. Her sunny charisma drew people in. She had been crucial in the parallel world, serving as a last resort. Despite missing her, Lu Jingming had left her there because that world needed her. Now that its situation had stabilized, it was time she came back. According to Elysia, Bibi Dong had obtained the Rakshasa demonic scythe and was preparing a path to divinity, while Qian Renshui had returned to Spirit Hall to undergo the angel god's trial. 2 divinities would soon be born there. Even as newly ascended gods, the angel god and the Rakshasa god would be powerful enough to curb the rising corruption. Both were first-class gods whose divine power could not be easily opposed by ordinary true gods. With the balance tilting favorably and Lu Jingming himself gaining more true power, he no longer needed to constantly monitor that parallel continent. His main foundation and responsibilities lay in this world. He had preserved Kunyu Pavilion and the Element Academy and trusted that, with Qian Renshui and the new divinities in place, the future there would be manageable. Bibi Dong had always been extreme in her actions, but not wholly without reason or restraint. A hidden maternal love remained for Qian Renshui. Even if Spirit Hall came to dominate, it would have to decide between inclusion and suppression. Ultimately, Lu Jingming decided Elysia deserved to return. He felt guilty leaving her alone for so long, and he believed in treating everyone he had summoned equally. Elysia. Raiden Mei froze the moment their gazes met, as if time had stopped. Memories of the Elysian realm washed over her. She had never imagined she'd see Elysia again in this life. The last farewell had felt permanent. She had resigned herself to finding Elysia only in memory. Elysia, you've grown. You're even more radiant. What a surprise! Elysia exclaimed, spotting Raiden Mei and rushing forward. She grabbed Raiden Mei's hand and hugged it to her chest, conveying a joy that words could not capture. The Elysia summoned by Lu Jingming possessed not only the true body, but also all the memories and experiences of the Elysian realm's memory entity, which was why she recognized Raiden Mei. The original Elysia's true body was gone. What remained was the memory entity from the Elysian realm. Elysia, I never thought I'd see you again. This is wonderful, Raiden Mei said, her voice thick with emotion. To reunite with an old friend like this was a warmth, like winter sunlight, one could not help but be grateful for. Chapter 271, Alicia and March 7th. Chapter 270, Elysia and Sanyuichi. Yes, thanks to Aming, he's my lucky star. Elysia turned her head and winked playfully at Lu Jingming. Her whole face lit up with the kind of brilliant, beautiful smile that seemed to brighten the entire world. This is Elysia, a flawless maiden as splendid as a falling blossom. But beware, sometimes she's a little overly enthusiastic. Lu Jingming introduced Elysia to the curious Robin and the others with a smile. He said it lightly, but his eyes were laughing. He couldn't resist teasing Elysia a little as he spoke, adding touches of mischief that made the mood even more relaxed and joyful. Oh, Aming, what are you saying? Why would they be wary of me? I'm a little sad now. Elysia's soft pink lips pouted, her expression mock-offended. Her eyes glinted with a faux grievance, and the whole performance was unbearably cute, deliberately coquettish rather than genuinely wounded. Robin, Firefly, Xiadi, and the other girls all became quietly guarded at once. Not because they believed Lu Jingming's words literally, but because girls have an instinctive read on this sort of thing. They noticed the particular warmth in Lu Jingming's manner toward Elysia, a fondness deeper than the casual affection he'd shown them when first meeting each of them. Where he had treated them with a natural familiarity that felt sincere, his manner with Elysia carried something more, a special, focused fondness. So that's it. This is what they mean by player favoritism, Robin thought. As a superstar used to fans and fandom dynamics, she understood that someone can like many people, but there's often one they love most. She also knew these people had once been game characters in Lu Jingming's previous world. Players' affections vary by rank. It was clear Elysia had been the character he cherished most back then. The realization stung. As a cosmic diva used to attention across the universe, Robin hadn't expected that in Lu Jingming's eyes, she wasn't the number one. This sudden newcomer was. She couldn't help feeling a little resentful, miffed that she wasn't his favorite creation. Elysia seemed to sense the other's wariness and immediately went on the offensive. She fluttered through the group like a pink butterfly, always smiling like sunshine, greeting everyone in turn and chatting up a storm. Lu Jingming watched her quickly win people over, his mouth twitching in amusement. As expected of Elysia, her affinity and social grace were impeccable. Her lively, exuberant energy infected everyone nearby. Before long, she was the undisputed life of the party, pulling even the aloof Jingliu and the guarded Curtilla into easy conversation. Elysia was unabashedly herself, playful, narcissistic in a charming way, constantly calling herself a flawless maiden. Her confidence was oddly magnetic. People were drawn in. In minutes, she'd become the perfect atmosphere regulator, honest and unabashedly warm. Even Curtilla, who usually kept everyone at arm's length, couldn't help but like her after a short exchange. Elysia's good humor, perceptiveness, and sincere fondness for others operated like a strong magnet that captivated the gathering. Robin, watching, finally understood why Lu Jingming treated Elysia differently. She had to admit Elysia had an irresistible charm, one even she could envy. Seeing Robin's slight slump, Lu Jingming discreetly took her hand and, voice soft as breeze, whispered into her ear, "What's wrong, our big star? Why so suddenly lacking in confidence? In my eyes, my chicken wing girl is no worse than anyone else. I haven't given up, and don't call me that." Robin's cheeks flushed. Shy and annoyed at once, she pinched Lu Jingming's waist with a delicate finger, neither too hard nor too soft, an instinctive gesture to express complicated feelings. While Lu Jingming and Robin traded their private gestures, Elysia had already flitted over to San Yueki with a bright grin. "Hi, I'm Elysia. Like Elysium. Isn't it a beautiful name?" she said. "Oh, now that I look closely, don't we resemble each other?" Elysia tilted her head, inspecting San Yueki like she'd found a little treasure. "You have pink hair too. Very eye-catching." San Yueki crossed her arms, chin on hand, and nodded as if agreeing with a surprising discovery. And were both cheerful, pretty, and optimistic maidens. What a coincidence. Elysia beamed her signature smile, all fireworks and blossoms. "You're so well-spoken, yet it's true." San Yueki felt a little pleased and nodded in agreement. Lu Jingming watched the two narcissists bonding and couldn't help but grin. That was a strong alliance right there. This would be entertaining. With Elysia's addition, the gathering reached a new level of liveliness. It was a shame Mobius hadn't come. She disliked this kind of scene. But if Elysia invited her next time, Lu Jingming thought she could be persuaded. Eventually, the party wound down. People dispersed and returned to their rooms. Xia Di lingered at the end, hoping for a private moment with Lu Jingming, but seeing him holding Shujuju's hand as they left, she sighed and left with a hint of resentment. Someone else had gotten in before her again. Kurtila watched her with a touch of disappointment, wishing Xia Di were more assertive. Couldn't she just take Lu Jingming for herself? But Kurtila also understood Xia Di's nature. Gentle, understanding, soft-hearted. That wouldn't be easy to change. In the cozy room, the soul-guiding lamp cast a warm, romantic glow. Two figures drew closer until they overlapped. "Ming, I know I'm late, but thankfully it isn't too late. Consider this a coming-of-age gift from your older sister," Shuju said in a melodious voice full of tenderness. "I really like this gift, Jujie," Lu Jingming replied, smiling with complete affection. He wrapped one arm around Shujuju's leg, clad in black silk, and placed the other hand gently at the back of her neck. With a steady lift, he carried her in a graceful princess carry toward the large, soft bed. Shujuju relaxed into the mattress and hugged him tightly. Her golden eyes were dreamy, as if veiled by mist. Holding Lu Jingming's tall, perfect form, she felt the unmistakable masculine aura that made her knees go weak. Lu Jingming sealed the two stigmata spaces. Instantly, Lady and Jen and the great merciful Tree King saw only darkness. "This little guy's luck with women is really something," Lady and Jen sighed. She'd lost count of how many times her vision had been shielded. Each time meant something adult was about to happen. The great merciful Tree King blinked emerald eyes. Though she was curious and wanted to witness whatever this new knowledge might be, she wouldn't force it. She'd long suspected that sooner or later, she and Lady and Jen would be drawn into Lu Jingming's circle. They shared destiny with him, prosperity or suffering together, and ending up part of his harem seemed inevitable. Inside the room, all outside noise was gone. Shujuju's eyes shimmered like a deep, affectionate lake. Lu Jingming's ruby-bright gaze met her golden ones. A fresh, spring-like scent drifted from her, stirring something in him. Since this was the coming-of-age gift she had given him, he didn't hesitate. Under the soul-guiding lamp, the two shadows on the wall gradually merged. On this beautiful night, Lu Jingming received Shujuju's gift. Shujuju, in turn, fully transformed from girl to woman, opening a new chapter of her life. Not far away, Robin lay curled in her quilt, face flushed like a ripe apple. Her harmony ability made her especially sensitive to sound. Though her room was well insulated, she still faintly heard the nearby sounds from Lu Jingming's room. Those sounds felt like a gravitational pull, a vortex drawing her inward and making her body go weak. Curiosity surged. On an impulse, she used harmony to quietly link her senses with Shujuju's. Robin swore it was only curiosity and a bit of recklessness. The moment Harmony connected her, regret hit. Tears sprang to her eyes. The experience overwhelmed her, as if she were drowning in a tidal sensory wave. She had never expected her own ability would cause her such discomfort. In the room, Lu Jingming's body suddenly paused. His senses picked up a faint anomaly. His gaze seemed to pierce the wall toward Robin's room. Remembering Robin's harmony, he narrowed his eyes and smiled. Curiosity killed the cat? No, this one was about to do a number on the bird. Robin must be in serious discomfort right now, he thought, amused. The next morning, the first ray of dawn slipped across the sky, and Haiwan City slowly stirred. A thin veil of grayish blue hung where sea met sky. The sea breeze carried a damp, salty smell and swept through the city, while waves rushed the beach and receded, leaving pearly foam on the sand. The eastern sky quietly changed. A faint thread of rose spread and deepened into molten gold along the cloud edges, as if the sky were being dressed in a magnificent robe. Seabirds skimmed the sparkling water, hunted fish, and rose again in graceful arcs. This view never gets old, Jinshi said, brushing her silver hair aside as it danced in the wind. She looked at Lu Ying, who sat quietly on a reef with her knees hugged to her chest. If Lu Ying wasn't in town in the morning, she could always be found here by the sea. It's beautiful, Lu Ying answered. Her silver hair fluttered like snow in the breeze. The morning light haloed her profile and made her look almost ethereal. Jinshi studied her and felt a twinge of concern. You've been here all night. Are you upset? Lu Ying shook her head. Jinshi knew Lu Ying had once suffered genetic defects and couldn't dream normally, but Lu Jingming had repaired that with the white flower. Now she loved dreaming, so she rarely stayed up all night. Saying she couldn't sleep was a little evasive. Jinshi saw what the real reason was. Lu Ying had stayed by the sea to avoid being next to Lu Jingming's room the previous night. A faint loneliness flickered in her eyes. If that's so, let's head back early. Ming will worry, Jinshi said, not pressing further but cleverly invoking Lu Jingming. Mentioning him always made Lu Ying cooperative. Okay. Lu Ying dusted herself off and stood, the tiny look of grievance still there. Deep down, she didn't want Lu Jingming to worry, yet thinking of him still made her feel a little hurt. Jinshi sighed inwardly. She had to help Lu Jingming manage Haiwan City, and he'd entrusted her with looking after Liu Ying and Xia Di, two well-behaved women, but still part of the complicated business of managing his harem. Jinshi felt helpless, but responsible. She couldn't refuse him. Helping the person she loved soothe his other rivals, surely that was a kind of hardship, she thought, smiling ruefully to herself. Chapter 272, Shujuju and the Robin. Under the soft touch of morning sunlight, Lu Jingming opened his eyes slowly. Beside him, Shujuju slept on, her delicate silhouette laid out across the bed. She was not an exaggeratedly voluptuous woman, but her curves were graceful, quietly alluring. Her sleeping posture was disordered. She clutched the blanket loosely. It had slipped down, and the pale skin of her chest and her rounded fair thighs were exposed. The sight was a far cry from the composed, dignified princess everyone knew. Beams of light filtered through the curtains, speckling dust motes that danced like tiny sprites. The rays fell across the bed and pooled over the marks on her neck and collarbone, faint, reddened traces that softened the angles of her throat, giving her an almost dreamlike glow. Perhaps Lu Jingming's movement had stirred her. The princess stirred, rubbing sleep from her eyes. The blanket slid further, and in an instant she was revealed, cheeks flushing like a peach in bloom. Her golden lashes fluttered like startled butterflies as she blinked into wakefulness, the haziness in her gaze slowly clearing. Gradually memory returned, and with it the aching, peculiar awareness in her body. Last night unspooled before her, how she'd put aside her usual reserve and thrown herself forward, how she'd worn things that made her blush just to please him. A small, contented smile tugged at her lips. Ming is amazing, she murmured, stretching lazily. The movement was inadvertent but complete, her form displayed in the soft light. In truth, Shujuju had long since accepted Lu Jingming in her heart. Though she felt shy at times, she had a pragmatic view of intimacy. She'd grown up hearing of nobles' excesses and thought what she and Lu Jingming shared was honest by comparison. More than the physical side of it, what she really hoped for was another kind of fruit, a child. She rested a hand instinctively on her lower belly, and her face softened with longing. Their sect was dwindling, the star-crowned sect barely a shadow of its former self. In the whole empire, there was only one emperor and two princesses left. Even if a child didn't awaken the star-crowned spirit, Lu Jingming's black abyss white flower spirit was stronger. The bloodline would persist as long as it continued. The idea of preserving the line loomed in her thoughts like a quiet, pressing hope. "Juju, do you want a child? I can help," Lu Jingming said, amused but understanding. He was aware of how precarious her position was. "Really, Ming? You really can?" Shujuju's eyes brightened. The longing in her gaze made him hesitate slightly. He'd believed she'd not conceived last night. On the Douluo Continent, the Sun Moon Empire had techniques for assisted conception. Even without his spirit, he could involve the Black Tower, but he'd rather not invite their ridicule. He had another option. With his spirit's growing power, he could perform cellular manipulation and influence genes himself. "You know my spirit ability," he said matter-of-factly. "I can manipulate on a cellular level. We don't have to rush. When it's right, I can help." Shujuju reached for him instinctively, eager, but Lu Jingming gently pushed her back onto the bed. "Rest," he advised, smiling. "We have plenty of time." She inhaled and let the urgency ebb. If he could help, there was no reason to hurry. Once she relaxed, a thoughtful expression crossed his face. Another person needed attention. He rose, ordered 2 breakfasts prepared, one to leave with Shujuju, and carried the other to Robin's room. Robin opened her eyes in a haze. The fabric clung to her, damp and uncomfortable. As the memories of the night flooded in, the strange synchronization with Shujuju's senses, her face heated so hot she wished she could disappear. "Ming, how could he be like that?" she groaned, burying her face in the pillow. She was no innocent. As a star, she'd seen much. Still, the idea that someone could affect her so profoundly through sensory sync alone left her reeling. If she had been in the thick of it, she didn't know how she would have survived. A soft voice sounded then, and she answered almost without thinking. "Of course, Ming." "Ah!" She cut herself off with a small, panicked squeal. There, at the foot of her bed, Lu Jingming stood with a meal box, half smiling. Heat prickled along her skin. She felt as if she'd been thrown into an ice cellar. "Ah, Ming, why are you here?" she stammered, scrambling to pull the covers up. Her clothes were still sticky with sweat. She clutched the blanket like a last shred of modesty. Lu Jingming wrinkled his nose, taking in the lingering scent. "Strange smell," he teased lightly. "Little bird, what were you doing last night?" Robin's face flamed. "Nothing. Get out. I'll change. How could you just come into a girl's room?" "I came to bring breakfast," he said, placing the food on the bedside and sitting on the edge of the bed. He leaned in so his lips were near her ear. "You looked like you had a hard night. I thought you'd need something." Her heart pounded so loudly she could barely breathe. The shame of last night washed over her again. She hadn't been on the front lines, but the echo of it in her mind was humiliating. You saw?" she whispered, voice trembling. "Thanks to you, Juju was exhausted," Lu Jingming murmured, amusement in his tone. "You should sympathize, right?" Robin wanted the floor to open and swallow her whole. "Stop talking. Just kill me," she wailed inwardly, burying her face in the pillow as if that would erase the memory. Lu Jingming only smiled. He reached for the blanket she clung to and with a casual motion scooped her into his arms in a princess carry. What are you doing?" she spluttered, eyes shut tight. "Taking you to bathe," he answered. "You're all wet. You must be miserable." "No, I'll do it myself. Get out." Panic laced her voice. The idea of him seeing her like this filled her with a ridiculous, flustered terror. He didn't relent. He carried her to the bathroom, set her down, and turned on the tap. Warm water hissed and steamed, filling the room with comforting scent. As he moved to help, Robin's protests dwindled to little, half-hearted struggles. She bit her lip and let the resistance fall away. The scent of him, the memory of the night, and the intimacy of the moment drained her strength. Lu Jingming paused for a fraction of a second, his voice softer than it had been. "Are you sure?" Robin's heart threatened to burst out of her chest. Part of her wanted to flee forever, but another, more honest part yearned forward. When he asked, she didn't refuse. Instead, she nodded, a small, trembling motion filled with both shame and a fragile, eager anticipation. Chapter 273, The Winning Robin. A quiet agreement passed between them, and Lu Jingming finally let go of his last reservations. Robin. He savored the girl in his arms, naive in a sweet, sincere way, and said her name softly. Her cheeks were flushed. She bit her lip and nodded, answering him without words. In the warm haze of the bathroom steam, they gave themselves over to the moment. By the time Lu Jingming lost himself in that intimacy, Shu Juju had finished breakfast and left without waiting. The clever princess narrowed her eyes and immediately suspected he had gone off to see another girl. What a scoundrel! She wasn't truly angry, just a little bothered and oddly light-headed. A faint greenish tint seemed to touch her usually dazzling golden hair. Juju, are you all right? Hathison appeared and regarded her calmly. As master and attendant, they'd both restrained themselves the previous evening. I'm fine, Shujuju said. I'll recover soon. Hathison watched her with the cool detachment she always wore. She didn't care about Shujuju's affair with Lu Jingming. She only didn't want the princess to lose sight of her duties. Don't get lost in pleasures. You carry the future of the empire on your shoulders. The empire's future? I've already put that on Ming, Shujuju replied with a shy smile. She and Shujiaowei had long since bet on Lu Jingming. With recent events, her reliance on him had only deepened, and she didn't dislike it. Hathison only nodded. It was natural to follow strength. She herself followed Curtilla because she believed the superstar could shape the future. Curtilla's voice could conquer galaxies and had certainly captivated Lu Jingming. How long they stayed there felt like no time at all. Lu Jingming gently lifted the slightly weak Robin from the tub and stepped out. He remade the bed, changing the wet sheets and laying out fresh, faintly scented linens, then lay back down, holding Robin close. The bed felt like the warmest refuge in the world. Robin nestled against him, a hand resting instinctively on her lower abdomen. A worried frown crossed her face. I won't get pregnant, will I? Let me check. Lu Jingming smiled, part teasing, part tender. He leaned forward and pressed his ear to her belly as if he could actually hear another life. Robin rolled her eyes. She wasn't that gullible. She knew you couldn't detect pregnancy that easily after a single encounter. If it were San Yuechi, she might have believed you, she muttered. Lu Jingming pouted and then, almost absent-mindedly, stroked her lower belly. At once, the world tree stigma on his right hand flared bright red. The change made him go rigid. No, he whispered, staring at the mark in disbelief. Concentrating, he extended his senses and detected a faint, unfamiliar life aura in Robin, weak as a newly sprouted seed, yet undeniably there. Lu Jingming's mind stumbled. He hadn't expected this. Robin getting pregnant? Not Ye Miko, Zhang Lexuan, Meng Hongchen, or Shu Juju, but Robin, with just a single encounter, had hit the jackpot. His earlier joke suddenly felt less like a joke. He was relieved he hadn't summoned anyone else. Otherwise, beings with grandiose titles might have manifested. Fear and awe wove through him as he looked at Robin, unsure how to tell her. What is it? She asked. She hadn't minded their intimacy. After everything they'd just shared, shyness had long ago evaporated. It was Lu Jingming's sudden stiffness that worried her. Don't get excited. I need to tell you something, he said, voice oddly small. Robin studied his expression and guessed. Her heart rose with surprise and a reluctant hope. Don't joke with me. I wish I were, he said. This seems real, Robin. I'm serious. She tightened her hand on her belly, a tightly mixed expression of melancholy and a shy, fledgling joy crossing her face. They both felt it, joy at a new life, and anxiety about what it meant to become parents so suddenly. How about we terminate it? Lu Jingming offered haltingly. With the black abyss white flower's power, it would be possible with no physical sequelae. The words left his mouth and immediately sat wrong. After all, this was their child. No, Robin snapped, shaking her head so fast her hair swung. She glared at him, dismayed by the suggestion. She couldn't bring herself to end a life, especially not one that was born of them. The thought stirred a fierce tenderness she hadn't expected. Then, we keep it. Lu Jingming had never imagined becoming a father. He'd believed that, at his current state, having offspring would be nearly impossible unless he used some artifice. He hadn't planned for this tiny, improbable chance to come true. Still, Hearing Robin's adamant refusal filled him with a complex warmth. He didn't want to give up either. "It's all your fault," Robin said lightly, pouting. All right, it's my fault," he surrendered with a grin, relief flooding him. Becoming a father, whether in this life or the last, was a first, and his emotions were tangled: pride, fear, wonder. Above all, this child was theirs in a way he had only dreamt of before. "Come on, mother of my child, eat," he teased, offering the breakfast she had missed. He fed her with careful, attentive hands, as if each spoonful were charged with the world's blessings. Robin lay back, letting the small domestic tenderness wash over her. In that instant, she forgot the rest of the world. It was just her, Lu Jingming, and the fragile new life inside her. But news has a way of spreading. When the tidings reached the others, it exploded like a bomb. "What? Sister Robin is pregnant." "Ming, you scoundrel, when did you get your hands on Sister Robin?" Sanuichi was nearly undone by the shock. She pounced on Lu Jingming, knocked him to the floor, and straddled him like an angry beast, her glare accusing and theatrical. Everyone around them froze, animated with astonishment. Changli stroked her chin, amused, scanning Zhang Lexuan, Shu Juju, Ye Miko, and Meng Hongqian as though studying a show. Zhang Lexuan's face carried a bittersweet mix of joy for Robin and rue for herself. Always the official fiancé, never the first. Shu Juju and Meng Hongqian looked resentful, glancing at their own bellies as if blaming their organs for failing them. Xiadie's eyes were fixed on Robin's midsection. Excitement brightened her face. "A baby! How cute! I hope it's a girl." Elysia fluttered over like a cheerful bird, smiling at Robin as if she could already see the child playing in the sun. Their eager looks pressed on Robin all at once. Though she was a superstar used to countless stares, this felt different, intimate and personal, and a hot blush spread across her fair cheeks. Robin and Lu Jingming had already agreed not to hide it. Within months, the pregnancy would show. It was better to be open about it. There was nothing shameful in their relationship, and the truth would come out sooner or later. "This little one will be blessed," Yaimiko said, surveying the crowd. Everyone seemed ready to dote on the child. It wasn't even born yet, and Robin already had a small army of mothers eager to shower it with affection. Chapter 274, Tang Wutong and Vita. Everyone recovered from their shock and swarmed around Robin, smothering her with concern and care, completely forgetting about Lu Jingming, the one who had caused it all. In that moment, whether Lu Jingming had done it to Robin seemed unimportant. "Ming, you're so unfair. I want some too." Su Juju glared at Lu Jingming, her eyes full of mock indignation that somehow felt like real reproach. He'd spent the night with her, abandoned her after she'd worked so hard, and then gone off to see Robin, who'd accidentally gotten pregnant. Of course, Shu Juju was resentful. "All right, next time for sure," Lu Jingming sighed and agreed. He hadn't meant to hurry anything before, and Shu Juju had seemed willing to wait. But the news of Robin's pregnancy had stirred her up, and now she was determined to have a child by him. "You promised, no backing out. Can we do it tonight?" Shu Juju's eyes lit up as soon as he assented. Lu Jingming couldn't help but smile weakly. He felt both helpless and amused. He also noticed Zhang Lexuan watching him with obvious expectation. It felt like a sweet dilemma, two women waiting with hopeful eyes, and for a moment he didn't know where to look. Robin, meanwhile, had become the magnetic center of attention. Everyone peppered her with questions and fussed over her. San Yuichi was especially forward, volunteering to keep watch over Robin day and night, partly out of wariness toward Lu Jingming, partly out of curiosity about the new life growing inside Robin. She wanted to witness every moment. Robin appreciated the concern, but she also felt awkward. She had only just become pregnant. There was no medical need for constant care yet. And having tasted that forbidden experience, she found herself strangely nostalgic for it, even wanting more. If she let San Yuichi shadow her all the time, when would Lu Jingming be able to visit? Smiling gently, Robin politely declined San Yuichi's offer, leaving the girl a little regretful. San Yuichi's intentions were sincere. She was genuinely curious, but Robin preferred to keep some privacy. Lu Jingming relaxed when he saw how protective everyone was. The scene was warm and harmonious. He had no real worries. Robin, carrying the Lu family bloodline, had sealed her status in Haiyuan City. Even the enforcement guard leaders who had been elders of the Lu family, like Lu Wu and Lu Qingluan, took turns standing guard outside Robin's residence. Lu Jingming noticed that Jingliu, usually seldom seen, frequently lingered nearby too, cold as always on the surface, but clearly caring in her own way. With Haiwan City heavily guarded, accidents were unlikely. Still, the depth of everyone's concern made them anxious. They felt they wouldn't be at ease until they'd seen Robin and the child with their own eyes. Lu Jingming, however, remained calm. He trusted Haiwan City's defenses implicitly. He understood that this frenzy of care reflected how much they all cared for Robin, so he let them express it in their own ways. Far away on the Douluo Continent, at the cloud recesses of the Clear Sky sect, Niu Tian stood on a cliff in a simple gray robe, watching the mountains stretch uninterrupted into the distance. His expression was heavy, like a man shouldering a great burden. Da Ming, the deep-sea demon whale has reappeared, Tai Tan said, pacing beside him, worry clear on his face. It wiped out the Demon Soul Great White Shark clan and gravely wounded the Sea God family. I think our Clear Sky sect is likely next. What do you think? Niu Tian's face tightened. The Sea God family had reported that their clan chief had fallen, and the Demon Soul Great White Shark clan had been devastated, news that hit like a bomb. Although the Clear Sky sect kept to itself, they did not ignore the wider world, especially the Sea God families. Still, the Tang sect was an exception. They were not regarded as a continuation of Sea God Tang San's old line, and thus received little recognition. The deep-sea demon whale's strength is beyond our measure, Niu Tian said bitterly. It's not something we can contend with lightly. We can only hope someone can intervene in time. He and Tai Tan were both limit Douluo, but they knew even a sea god Douluo with a divine artifact had been defeated. Their own chances were slim. Escaping such an enemy might be impossible. Niu Tian could only hope any contingency plan Tang San had left behind was robust, and that Tang San himself, now in the God realm, would notice these changes in the lower realm. But Tang San had not contacted them. Niu Tian feared Tang San might be embroiled in serious trouble as well. Niu Tian's gaze drifted to the distance, toward Tang Wutong and the woman by her side. The woman had gray hair, crimson eyes, and wore luxurious clothes like a peacock displaying its tail. She laughed and chatted intimately with Tang Wutong, like two close sisters. Tang Wutong trusted her completely, but Niu Tian's instincts tightened. The woman struck him as dangerous, not benevolent. His suspicion grew when he and Tai Tan had briefly tested the gray-haired woman. Despite her friendly demeanor, her strength had shown that neither Niu Tian nor Tai Tan could match her. She'd been unfailingly affable since being summoned as Tang Wutong's servant, quickly bonding with the girl, but Niu Tian's unease remained. From across the rock-strewn path, the gray-haired woman, teasing Tang Wutong in a dramatic, exaggerated way, seemed to sense his gaze. She looked up, a faint, unreadable smile in her eyes, then turned back to Tang Wutong and continued the playful banter. Sister Vita, what should I do? The task Father gave me is so troublesome. Tang Wutong pouted. She wore a fine pink and blue dress, snow-white stockings over long, straight legs, and casually kicked at the pebbles with her high heels. The task Tang San had given her was to get close to Lu Jingming and learn more about him. But Tang Wutong had no idea how to start. She couldn't just march into Haiwan City and say she was looking for Lu Jingming. They had no prior connection. Such a rash approach would only set off alarms. Joining St. Freya Academy was impossible too. She was 17, well past the age for admission. Spirit academies typically recruit around 11 or 12, and St. Freya was no exception. Tang Wutong's Clear Sky sect background and her past at Shrek Academy made admission even less likely. At a loss, Tang Wutong had told her servant Vita everything: her origins, her mission, even that she was the daughter of a god king. Naive and open, she trusted Vita completely. Vita, who played the role of an understanding older sister, listened and smiled. What's so difficult? With your unmatched beauty, little Wutong, winning over a man will be a piece of cake, Vita said, turning and lifting Tang Wutong's chin with a finger, her tone light and teasing. Tita, stop joking. What time is it? I really don't know what to do. Tang Wutong blushed, exasperated. Vita was clever and helpful, but loved to tease. The man Lu Jingming isn't ordinary. If you win him over, the upcoming Holy Grail War will be much easier for us. And I'm just a weak girl. Asking me to fight in a Holy Grail War is too much, Vita said, feigning frailty with a playful shake of her head. In truth, she knew far more about her own strength than she let on. She preferred amusement to battle. Tang Wutong rolled her eyes. She understood Vita's boastful affectation. Vita's true power was not to be underestimated. Her strength had already surpassed known limits of the old Douluo Continent. The current continent, in fact, was quietly changing. Any sensitive spirit master could feel it. Cultivation was accelerating. The heaven and earth energy in the air had grown richer, and breaking through bottlenecks had become easier. The upper bounds the world had once imposed were loosening. Spirit beasts improved as well. More had passed heavenly tribulation recently, and many more humans had become titled Douluo. All these subtle shifts traced back, in Vita's mind, to one source, Lu Jingming. Vita had not been with Tang Wutong long, but she had sharp intelligence-gathering skills. From the simulated universe to virtual games to the rapid development of soul tools and the mysterious stigmata, she had pieced together fragments into a pattern. The clues all pointed to Haiyuan City and to Lu Jingming. The stigmata carried a strong sense of déjà vu, traces of her own world, and Vita boldly suspected that the Holy Grail War that summoned her memory body might be connected with Lu Jingming. She was curious and found the whole thing entertaining. Vita liked mischief. She genuinely wanted Tang Wutong to use charm and a honey trap to draw close to Lu Jingming. If Lu Jingming was the center of those changes, getting close to him could answer important questions. But for Vita, the fun of the mission mattered more than any lofty truth. She hadn't come with her true body and had no real desire to fight a war. She preferred to follow her whims and enjoy the ride. From an angle Tang Wutong didn't see, Vita's smile turned sly and wicked. In her light red pupils danced the look of a trickster. Tang Wutong held all sorts of possibilities and amusement to Vita, but by nature she was not one to be obedient or conventional. She would follow her own ideas and seek whatever pleasures the journey offered. Tang Wutong did not sense Vita's private thoughts. She only hoped for sincere advice from the sister she trusted so she could complete her father's mission. She wanted to prove she was no longer a child and earn recognition, so she treated the task seriously. Chapter 275, Bluebird and Joan of Arc. Xiao Wutong, don't be so hasty. Let's go to Mingdu. Think about it. The stage for the Holy Grail War has already been set. Lu Jingming, the man you've been longing to see, will definitely appear. Vita's eyes narrowed, a spark of interest lighting them. She seemed to already be watching the spectacle that would unfold in Mingdu. Vita understood the situation on the Douluo Continent clearly. She knew the Soul Master competition a few months hence was, in effect, the opening ceremony for the Holy Grail War. If Lu Jingming were truly as important as Tang Wutong's father believed, the pivot of all the coming changes, then he would almost certainly show up in Mingdu. If he didn't, both Tang Wutong's father and Vita's own guesses would be wrong. All the answers would be revealed there. Vita longed to see this mysterious Lu Jingming with her own eyes. She was intensely curious what kind of person and what kind of divine ability could cause upheaval across the Douluo Continent. After all, summoning her memory body into an entirely different universe, far beyond a mere parallel, was astonishing. Even someone as powerful as Finality, as far as Vita could judge, shouldn't be able to do that. All right, I'll discuss it with Big Daddy and Second Daddy, and we'll put together a team to enter the Soul Master competition in the name of the Clear Sky sect. After a moment's thought, Tang Wutong nodded slowly. Vita's reasoning made sense. If Lu Jingming really was that crucial, it was highly likely he would become a master and take part in the Holy Grail War. Saint Freya Academy, a Spirit Master Academy and two-time champion, would almost certainly participate in the Soul Master competition. That made it very likely Lu Jingming would appear. If he did, Mingdu would be the place to find out. Heh, I win! On Sea God Island, a scenic area of Shrek Academy, inner court disciples rested in a lakeside pavilion. On a stone table laid jade tiles that looked like mahjong tiles. A petite girl in dark green, radiating a lazy air, flicked a jade tile from her hand with a triumphant smile. Ah! Chinke, how is your luck always so good? Xiao Xiao beside her frowned at the tiles in her hand. She had lost several rounds in a row, each time to Qingque. Luck's only part of it. The rest is calculation. Qingque's really something, worthy of being a servant. Ningtian, disguised as a young man with short golden hair, watched with admiration. The game, Dihuan Chongyu, had been brought to the academy by Qingque, Xiao Xiao's servant, and it had quickly become popular across Shrek. Ningtian had studied it thoroughly and found that although the game relied on luck, strong computational ability was indispensable. As the young lord of the 9 treasure-glazed tile school, Ningtian was adept at multitasking and not lacking in calculation, but compared to Qingque, she was clearly outmatched. That was why she'd lost more than she'd won. "No way, it's all luck. Let's go again." Qingque chuckled and expertly shuffled the tiles with both hands. She loved this alternate world. Here she didn't have to work, didn't have to fear the diviner general, and as a memory body, she didn't have to explain herself to parents or worry about future plans she never had. Her life here was exactly what she had wanted. Play cards, loaf around, enjoy being carefree. Is it really okay for us to be like this? Xiao Xiao looked at Ningtian and Wu Feng with worry. Since Qingque had been summoned, she'd been dragged into endless games of Dihuan Chongyu and felt her cultivation time slipping away. "It's fine, Master. It's about balance. You can't live for cultivation alone." Qingque sensed Xiao Xiao's unease and quickly reassured her, not wanting to lose such a card partner. Her words had truth to them. Qingque had already calculated Xiao Xiao's optimal cultivation schedule, ensuring it wouldn't slow her progress or cause burnout. "But aren't we supposed to be preparing for the Holy Grail War?" Xiao Xiao hesitated. The Academy had lavished masters with heaven and earth treasures and spirit bones to help them grow strong enough to win the Grail. Looking at Qingque, who seemed utterly unfit for combat and only wanted to laze, Xiao Xiao felt guilty about enjoying the benefits without contributing. "Oh, Master, Qingque is terrible at fighting. You wouldn't actually send me against those powerful servants, would you? Besides, the Academy has plenty of masters and servants to worry about the war. We can cheer from the sidelines." Qingque quickly dismissed the idea. The servants in the war were formidable, ghosts and monsters. If she, with her small frame, rushed in, she'd probably be swallowed up. She had divined for both of them. So long as they didn't initiate, refuse what they must, or take responsibility for chaotic events, they'd likely remain safe. Being drawn into the heart of the war would be disastrous. "Xiao Xiao, some servants really aren't fit for combat. Don't make it too hard on Qingque. We'll play the support role. It's what the Academy would expect." Ningtian defended Qingque, fond of the servant. Xiao Xiao thought of other servants, Beibei's and the rest, and how powerful they were. On reflection, forcing Qingque into battle was pointless. The Academy was full of strong people and numerous masters. With everyone united, they had a huge advantage. One more or one fewer Qingque wouldn't change things. For example, Ningtian had summoned a servant called the Holy Maiden. Her abilities were extraordinary. She could see through a servant's data, receive revelations, and make optimal decisions based on intuition. The Academy highly valued such powers. Ningtian's own skill, coupled with that servant, made her formidable in combat, strategy, and support. Compared to that, Qingque seemed mediocre, indeed disappointing by the Academy's standards. But Xiao Xiao always suspected her servant might be hiding something. The laziness was real, but the incompetence was questionable. Qingque noticed Xiao Xiao's look and twitched her mouth. Why did her master always assume she could shoulder more? She was just a poor, weak, helpless little diviner. She truly didn't want to fight. She only wanted a leisurely life of cards and naps. To her, the Holy Grail War was a nightmare. She'd prefer to treat this life as a dream and end it on her own terms when she got tired. Alas, I wonder what will happen at the Soul Master competition. My eyelids keep twitching. Xiao Xiao sighed. Even she sensed something was off. Shrek Academy's recent behavior had been abnormal. They were on high alert, forming a Spirit Master army, and the Soul Tool department was producing equipment like mad. All pointed to a serious situation. Coupled with the looming Holy Grail War, she suspected this Soul Master competition hosted by the Sun Moon Empire would be nothing like previous ones. This competition will be different and very dangerous. The Academy will send many strong people. All of us masters have to go. Ningtian's expression turned grave. Her servant's revelations had hinted the Sun Moon Empire prepared a big surprise this time, though what it was remained unclear. The revelations warned of great misfortune, but not necessarily a dead end. Revelations could be partially inaccurate. The Academy would not give up because of uncertainty. Damn it, if only I could become a master, I'd protect Ningtian. Wu Feng clenched her fists, full of frustration. She had not been chosen as a master. After seeing the strength of Ningtian's servant, she knew she couldn't participate in the Holy Grail War, nor protect Ningtian. It hurt. Feng Mei, you can't force these things. Look, many senior inner court students, male and female, stronger than me, weren't chosen either. Even the elders of the Sea God Pavilion weren't selected. It's not your fault, Ningtian soothed gently. She knew Wu Feng felt bitter, but being chosen wasn't something an individual could control. All right, enough of gloomy thoughts. Let's keep playing, Qingque said, anxious to steer the conversation back to cards. Leisure was her happiness in this world. She didn't want it interrupted. At that moment, a strange particle of light shimmered in the air. Within the glow, a girl in silver blue armor appeared behind Ningtian. Long legs shrouded in black stockings, a steady grip on a holy banner, golden hair braided and falling down her back, the proud emblem of magnificent justice on her chest gleamed. Qingque glanced and inwardly groaned. The Dihuan Qiongyu game was probably over. Master, the Academy has summoned all masters to the Sea God Pavilion for a meeting. The girl's voice was clear and melodious, gentle but firm. As she spoke, her blue eyes swept over Qingque. Her ability allowed her to see a servant's true name. In this alternate world, that knowledge had little practical use. There were no stories from their original world to give context. But the ability let her gauge a servant's strength roughly. The languid Mr. Jingyuan felt almost godlike to her. Qingque didn't register as particularly strong, but the revelation told her never to underestimate the other. Jean Dark, I told you not to call me master. Just call me Ningtian. Ningtian turned to her servant with a hint of helplessness. Jean Dark was an impeccable servant, a gentle, earnest, holy maiden who could charge into battle, support teammates, and defend with excellence. She also had leadership. She could command troops. Her one flaw was her seriousness. She clung to rules and found flexibility difficult. Ningtian often mused that if her 9 treasure glazed tile school had a guardian like Jeanne d'Arc, it would be wonderful, if only Jean weren't a servant. Thankfully, servants didn't necessarily vanish after the Holy Grail War. As long as the negative energy that sustained them wasn't cut off, they could persist indefinitely. Qingque had planned to spend her days playing Dihuan Qiongyu until she grew bored and willingly vanished. The summoning interrupted that plan. All right, Ningtian. Jean d'Arc gave a helpless smile. She was still adjusting to this alternate world. Here, her existence wasn't maintained by magic as she understood it, but by a strange, dangerous energy. It wasn't exactly the evil of her world. It was bound by a force that didn't corrupt minds, but simply sustained beings. Strangely, her revelations still functioned, though they seemed to tap into a high-level consciousness of this world, rather than the deity she had trusted in her original life. Being summoned here to fight in a Holy Grail war full of unfamiliar rules and faces was strange, but Jeanne d'Arc was a holy maiden. She had no wish to claim the Grail for herself. She wanted only to protect Ningtian and the innocent. She believed the Sun Moon Empire was intent on war, and so she stood with Shrek Academy. War brought terrible suffering. The innocent always paid the price. Within her limited power, she would do her part. All right, looks like this game's really off the table. I knew you'd never come for a good reason, Qingque said, spreading her hands with regret. Since the Academy had summoned the masters, servants, of course, had to follow. Xiao Xiao, too, couldn't skip the meeting. Sorry, Jeanne d'Arc sounded apologetic. She felt a little guilty for breaking up everyone's card game with her sudden appearance. Chapter 276. Grandma Song. Oh, I wasn't blaming you. Why are you taking it so seriously? Qingque rolled her eyes, amused. The Holy Maiden could be particular, but Qingque didn't dislike Jean's nature. Then, Sister Feng, you should head back first. Ningtian glanced at Wu Feng. After all, the woman was not a master and had no real right to sit in on the meeting. All right, Wu Feng murmured and began to leave, but her eyes flicked over Jean with a hint of hostility. Jean's face fell. "Do you dislike me?" Jean watched Wu Feng's back recede, bewildered and hurt. She couldn't see how she'd offended her. Ningtian understood Wu Feng's feelings and sighed inwardly. Ever since summoning Jean, she had spent far more time with her than with Wu Feng. Resentment was to be expected. "Don't worry, Jean. Sister Feng, I apologize for her." Jean shook her head gently. Kind by nature, she always looked inward first when faced with dislike. Qingque clicked her tongue in admiration. Jean's mild, gracious manner made her endearing. For anyone to dislike her, Qingque thought, meant their fixation on Ningtian must be severe. Inside the Sea God Pavilion, Xuanzi, Yan Xiaojie, and the other elders, titled Douluo, sat in solemn rows. They were pleased that so many masters had emerged at the academy, but they were also wary. They had seen the servants' unfathomable power firsthand. Every servant was extraordinary. Even seemingly ordinary Qingque could not be taken lightly. The real reason for their caution was Jing Yuan, the servant summoned by Beibei. Jing Yuan's strength had already astounded them, overwhelming even Xuanzi. Qingque hailed from the same world as Jing Yuan, and that association alone kept the academy from ever treating her lightly. They continued to supply her with cultivation resources without hesitation. "General Jing Yuan, please take the seat of honor." Yan Xiaozhe called when Jing Yuan arrived with Beibei. Jing Yuan, white hair, golden eyes, a lazy air about him, and a distinctive beauty mark beneath one eye, smiled faintly. He graciously accepted Yan's invitation and took the main seat. He was used to taking the initiative. Even in this unfamiliar world, he refused to be passive. Everyone treated Jing Yuan with respect. He was a servant of immense power, effectively a cornerstone for Shrek Academy. They clung to that pillar for security. After settling into the main seat, Jing Yuan closed his eyes and rested, but his mind never stopped. He quietly analyzed the fragments of information he'd gathered: the Holy Grail War, other worlds, the simulated universe, Miss Herta, Snow Moon Douluo, Robin, Haiwan City, Lu Jingming. Familiar names and strange ones braided through his thoughts. After sorting through them, he had a general picture, but he did not intend to report his analysis to Shrek Academy. This was not the Luofu Shanzhou he remembered, and he had not been summoned in his true body. He would help Beibei contend for the Grail, but nothing beyond that drew his allegiance. If people from his past truly existed here, things would be unusual, but he was only a memory construct, far weaker than his real self. Uncovering the truth might be interesting, but divulging it served no purpose. "Teacher!" Hiketu entered then, accompanied by a servant, tall, white-haired, red-eyed, clad in golden armor and emanating a godly light. Hiketu respectfully saluted Fan Yu, who had just broken through to titled Douluo and joined the Sea God Pavilion's ranks. "You're here. Have a seat." Fan Yu greeted warmly, though his smile faded at the thought of other disciples. Normally, masters like Hiketu and Beibei would not qualify to sit among the pavilion elders. This time was different. As masters, their servants were so powerful that former hierarchies seemed irrelevant. Karna, Hiketu's servant, was the son of the sun god, armed with a god-slaying spear, and capable of searing flames like the sun itself. Facing such an opponent, even a titled Douluo like Xuanzi would be hard-pressed to get close without paying a dire price. The elder's authority had diminished in the face of these servants. Some servants, like Karna, were loyal and obedient to their masters, but others, such as Jing Yuan, were independent to the point of controlling their summoners. Many of the Academy's recent policies, the formation of a Spirit Master army and the development of spirit tools, had quietly originated from Jing Yuan's influence. Without his counsel, the conservative elders would never have risked such sweeping changes. Shortly after Hiketo arrived, Xiao Xiao and Ning Tian followed, each with their servants, along with Qingque and Jean. Jiang Nanan returned from Kunyu Pavilion to the academy as well, entering with her servant. "Oh, what a setup. I'll say it right away. I'm just a merchant. If there's fighting, there'll be extra charges." Jiang Nanan's servant, Song Kui, smiled shrewdly at the grand assembly. Golden hair, a dark green dress, and black sunglasses gave her the air of a swaggering trickster. The Sea God Pavilion elders' faces twitched at her performance. "Of course young Miss Songkui's share won't be less, right, Dean Yan?" she continued. Jing Yuan opened his eyes slowly, and looked at the girl who called herself Sonq. That's right, whatever Shrek Academy has, young Miss Sonq may claim. Yan Xiaozhi smiled confidently. Shrek Academy's resources were vast. Granting some favors to a merchant-like servant was no problem. Sonq preened. Wonderful. I'm a woman of principle. I take money to solve troubles, only fair. Jiang Nanan, who knew her well, just twitched the corner of her mouth. Sonq talked big, but if a real fight came, she'd probably be the first to run. The pavilion elders kept silent. No one truly believed the posturing. Am I late? Shu Sanqi strolled in then, fan in hand, followed by a short-haired young man in a tight blue suit carrying a blood-red spear. Ku Chulain, the child of light from Ireland. Finally getting started, huh? Fishing life is relaxing, but without a fight I'm getting rusty, Ku Chulain declared, eager for battle. Don't worry, Mr. Ku Chulain, you'll get your chance to show what you can do, Yan Xiaozhi promised. He knew the servants' personalities well. Ku Chulain was good-natured, so long as you weren't his enemy, and as a lancer, he was a reliable combatant, useful in battle, charge, and reconnaissance, with genuine magical might to back him. To clash with heroes from other worlds, now that's something to make one's blood boil. Ku Chulain's mouth curved into a feral smile. He hungered for fights against great opponents more than he coveted the Grail itself. On the list of servants he most wanted to face were General Jing Yuan, who looked like a wise strategist, but who he suspected was a deadly fighter, Karna, the son of the sun god, a demigod equal in stature, and the dragon-slaying hero who had yet to appear. All were comrades now, so his hands itched in vain. He wouldn't provoke his own people. He was lawful, after all. Even if the Grail War's motives were murky, he would still follow his code. As if summoned by his thoughts, the dragon-slaying hero arrived. Dai Huabin entered with a tall, silver-haired warrior in heavy black armor, Siegfried. Broad-shouldered, brown-skinned, and imposing, Siegfried radiated a quiet pressure. Elder Xuan, Dean Yan! Dai Huabin saluted the pavilion elders, then took a seat in a secluded corner with Siegfried at his side. He kept to himself. He and Bei weren't close, and there was no intent to mingle. Xiao Xiao muttered under her breath, displeased. It's infuriating that someone like him got picked as a master and drew such a powerful servant. Ning Tian hissed softly to soothe her. Dai Huabin was loud and arrogant, but he hadn't yet crossed any institutional line. Xiao Xiao knew infighting was foolish, but his past antics still grated on her. I can't find my servant. That idiot ambushed me when I wasn't looking, knocked me out, and then disappeared. Ma Xiaotao burst in moments later, bright red outfit fluttering, clutching her forehead and sputtering with anger. Xiaotao, calm down. This is the Sea God Pavilion, Yan Xiaozhi warned, anxious that his disciple would erupt. Teacher, that brat. I'm at my wit's end. Is she even my servant? Ma Xiaotao fumed. Ever since summoning that unpredictable, mischievous servant, she hadn't had a moment's peace. Chapter 277, Masked Fool, Fireworks. Xiaotao Ji, don't rush. She probably hasn't left the academy. Can your command seal sense her location? Bei hurried to comfort her. That servant was a real headache. Ma Xiaotao wasn't the only one tormented by her. Almost everyone had been a victim of her pranks. He remembered the time Xuanzi's prized wine had been secretly swapped with some animal's urine. Xuanzi had picked it up and, supposedly unaware, took a sip and immediately went berserk. Later, he insisted he had smelled something off and hadn't actually drunk it, but his crazed behavior at the time made the explanation hard to swallow. To preserve Xuanzi's dignity, everyone tacitly accepted his version. Zhou Yi, an outer court teacher, had been another victim. The servant had transformed into Zhou Yi's likeness and kissed an outer court male disciple on the street. The gossip that followed nearly split the academy apart. Fan Yu had even nearly pulled out an 8th-level fixed-soul guided cannon shell in rage, convinced he'd been cuckolded. Only after Hanroro, her servant, and Ma Xiaotao herself stepped forward to explain did the truth come out. The servant possessed cloning ability. Both Zhou Yi and the male disciple had been her transformations, an elaborate, self-directed farce. The stunt almost ruptured Zhou Yi and Fan Yu's relationship and nearly got Shrek Academy blasted into ruin. In short, Sparkle's behavior was atrocious. She treated people like playthings, but no one could retaliate. Her power was far too strong, and the damage she caused was temporary. She never targeted the same person twice and always found new victims, so there was no reliable defense. I really can't do anything about it. Her ability blocks everything. I can't find a trace of her. Ma Xiaotao muttered, frustrated, staring at the command seal on her hand as if it had betrayed her. By all rights, a master should be able to sense their servant through the command seal, but the other party had, by some means, sealed that connection. It felt like she had vanished. Don't worry, it's not the first time. When she's had her fill, she'll show herself, Yan Xiaojia said with a tight smile. As the one responsible for the servant's daily affairs, he had cleaned up after Sparkle more times than he cared to remember. And since she was Ma Xiaotao's servant too, he suffered the most. Has anyone seen my servant? She ambushed me. That brat! I won't let her get away, a familiar voice called from outside. Another Ma Xiaotao in red stalked in, clutching her forehead, all anger and indignation. Behind her came Han Ruoro and a servant who radiated a noble, almost sacred aura. The woman had golden hair like threads of sunlight and wore white and gold robes that shimmered softly. Her skin was flawless white marble. Her pale blue eyes had no sparkle yet held a mysterious calm. Olive branch hairband, geometric metal necklace, ornate bracelets, laurel-adorned leg rings, shell-trimmed sandals, every detail spoke of classical divinity. This was Aglaya, the romantic demigod summoned by Han Ruoro. Aglaya's bearing made it easy to believe she could command others, but Jing Yuan's performances had always outshone her. Because Jing Yuan accepted the weight of leadership, Aglaya never pushed to take charge. Ma Xiaotao paused mid-complaint and blinked when she saw all the strange looks. She followed everyone's gaze and locked eyes with another Ma Xiaotao, who looked just as astonished. Han Ruoro's lips twitched. She turned to Aglaya and asked softly, Aya, can you tell which one is real? No, Aglaya replied calmly. Her ability is similar to some I know. It's bizarre and unpredictable. I can't be certain. Han Ruoro sighed and stepped back from both Ma Xiaotaos, knowing words wouldn't solve this. The situation between Ma Xiaotao and her servant was rarely civil. Staying out of it was safer. You stinky brat, I've put up with you long enough. Today I'm burning your hair off, both Ma Xiaotao shouted at once. Phoenix flames leapt across their bodies. The heat twisted the air. The high temperature made the space warp. They shared the same phoenix spirit, the same ultimate fire, matching stigmata and spirit rings, right down to personality and temper. Yan Xiaojie gaped. He'd watched Ma Xiaotao grow up and still found it impossible to tell which was authentic. Swansea spat out wine in shock. He had expected Sparkle to mimic appearances, but copy abilities and spirit rings perfectly? That was beyond belief. Xiaotao, calm down. Don't make a move, Chimeran pleaded, panic in her voice. This was Sea God Pavilion. If they fought here, the golden tree could be affected with disastrous consequences. Chimeran had raised Ma Xiaotao like a daughter. She couldn't bear to see her harmed. Ma Xiaotao clenched her anger back down for now, knowing she couldn't defeat Sparkle. Miss Jean, Chimeran implored John, hoping revelation could reveal the true Ma Xiaotao. Jean shook her head helplessly. Revelation gave no answer. Either it wasn't responding, or Sparkle's illusions were strong enough to fool even Jean. Jean's ability to see true names had no effect either. It was clear Sparkle had prepared for this. Seeing Jean fail, everyone looked increasingly anxious. Yan Xiaojie pleaded, Miss Sparkle, please stop playing. We're begging you. Why beg her? I'll fight her, Karna declared. Beibei's eyes flicked to Jing Yuan, hoping he would intervene. Jing Yuan, however, remained with his eyes closed, as if the world meant nothing to him. He could see through Sparkle's disguise, but chose to do nothing. Sparkle was a nuisance, yes, but her pranks were harmless. He preferred to let her amuse herself until she tired of the game. Karna, on the other hand, was tired of the chaos. He slowly raised his golden spear, its tip aimed at the first Ma Xiaotao to enter. Karna's discernment of the poor let him see through appearances and lies to a person's essence. He had long perceived dangerous streaks in Sparkle's nature, though he knew she wasn't truly evil. Now, bound by his master's request, he acted. Everyone's attention swung to the first Xiaotao. Most had suspected the second was fake. No one expected this. Oh dear, I'm caught. Little son, your ability is a nuisance, the first Ma Xiaotao sang. A dreamlike shimmer and the figure dissolved. Where she had stood was a petite girl with twin black ponytails. wearing a bright red kimono patterned with delicate designs. Her eyes were a soft pink like cherry blossoms, and a fox-shaped mask rested on her forehead. Masked Fool Sparkle had revealed herself. "Little fire chicken, don't be so mad. I was just teasing." Sparkle tilted her head, nimbly dodging a fireball that streaked by like a meteor. She looked up at Ma Xiaotao, who still burned with phoenix fire, and grinned mischievously. "Bastard, how many times do I have to tell you? Your granny is a phoenix, not a fire chicken." Ma Xiaotao ground out. Sparkle waved a hand dismissively. "It's all the same. Why worry about differences?" Then she turned and looked at Karna and Hike-tu, still smiling with a hint of wicked delight. "Little sun and blackhead, you know Sparkle-sama doesn't forget a grudge." "Oh, and little holy maiden," Sparkle finished, then hopped over to Jean like an overexcited rabbit. Bells on her outfit chimed in a bright, cheerful melody as she bounced at Jean's side. Chapter 278, Gentle Silk. Facing Huohuo's thinly veiled threat, Karna remained motionless and severe, like an unshakable statue, his expression never faltering. Hike-tu trembled. Memories of those Huohuo had tormented flashed through his mind, especially his teacher Fan Yu and his wife Zhou Yi. A cold sweat broke out on his brow. Jan could only shake her head with a bitter smile. She didn't take Huohuo's bluster too seriously. With her revelation, she could sense Huohuo's mischief before it happened and dodge it with ease. "Since everyone's here, let's begin. Miss Huohuo wouldn't mind, would she?" Jingyuan opened his eyes slowly, putting an end to the noisy farce. "Of course not. With the god of fun above, who dares dishonor the general of the hunt?" someone joked, and Huohuo spread her hands, shamelessly theatrical. Under Ma Xiaotao's fiery stare, she leaned close to her summoner and began to cajole her. After all, Ma Xiaotao had called her. If Huohuo wanted to keep enjoying herself in the future, she'd better keep her master happy. At Shrek Academy, the 9 masters, Ma Xiaotao, Han Ruoro, Beibei, Shu Sanqi, Heiketo, Xiao Xiao, Ning Tian, Dai Huabin, and Zhang Nanan, had gathered with their respective servants. Among those servants were powerhouses like Jingyuan, whose strength and cunning seemed beyond human measure, Karna, the sun god's son, Ku Chulainn, Ireland's son of light, Saintess John, the dragon slayer Siegfried, and the romantic demigod Aglaia. It was a lavish roster. If only the masked fool could be kept out of mischief, everyone would be far more pleased. Huohuo's antics drove people to the edge, and worst of all, no one could keep her in check. Xuanzi, for one, seethed. He despised Huohuo so much he wanted to tear her apart, yet his strength wouldn't allow it, and he suppressed his anger. Shrek Academy still needed Huohuo's power, and more practically, everyone feared becoming her next target. There wasn't much time left before the Sun Moon Empire's Soul Master competition, and the Holy Grail War was nearly upon them. Shrek Academy was intensively preparing, and masters from everywhere converged on the Sun Moon Empire. Far to the north, in the boundless Arctic ice field, the winds sliced like knives. Bai Shushu gripped her ice sword and trained relentlessly in the brutal cold. Each swing channeled spirit power, trailing faint sword chi in the air. Her arms ached, her spirit power nearly spent, her body frozen stiff, but she kept going. Hatred burned in her chest like a bottomless fuel, sharpening her will beyond measure. "All right, today's training ends here. Take a break." Skirk, standing nearby, frowned and then called the session to a halt. She knew the method behind the madness. Bai Shushu's growth was rapid under such extreme training. Bai Shushu's foundation was profound. A 100,000-year spirit beast whose innate power matched that of a titled Douluo. Even though she'd taken human form and lost much of that beastly might, her origin remained. She could endure training that would kill ordinary people and learn the delicate techniques Skirk taught. But Skirk wasn't like Bai Shushu's previous brutal teacher, Evil Rider. She would never push her disciple to ruin. She tempered the regimen to maximize growth without breaking Bai Shushu's body. At Skirk's command, Bai Shushu's taut nerves finally loosened. Exhaustion washed over her, and she crumpled toward the snow. Skirk materialized at her side in an instant, supporting her and saying with calm concern, "Don't let your mind wander. Meditate, quickly." Bai Shushu had been with Skirk long enough to understand that behind the cool, distant exterior was a gentle heart. Skirk taught her martial skills patiently, cooked for her, and in quiet moments played instruments, ones she had collected and crafted herself, and taught Bai Shushu to play. Skirk always told her that a life built only on revenge and power would lead to spiritual collapse or a ruinous path. Because of Skirk, no matter how hard the training, Bai Shushu never felt truly crushed. Even her hatred could be held in check. Then Bai Shushu noticed two figures approaching through the drifting snow. She dragged herself to Skirk's side and, a tremor in her voice, whispered, "Teacher, they're here again." Skirk had seen them earlier. Since their arrival in the Arctic, they'd met the pair before. Skirk had even fought the stronger of them. The two newcomers were no ordinary visitors. The Snow Empress and the Ice Empress, undisputed sovereigns of the far north. "Snow Empress," Skirk called. The Snow Empress, hair like fresh snow, stepped forward with regal calm. "Skirk, you two should leave." Skirk's brows drew together. They'd reached an understanding before. Bai Shushu's ice spirit and Skirk's ice affinity were exactly why they'd been allowed to train here. They had behaved themselves, hunting only those beasts that were a danger or lacked higher intelligence. There was no reason for the Snow Empress to revoke the agreement. "It's not that we can't accommodate outsiders," the Ice Empress explained gently. "It's just, there's no time to waste. The Holy Grail War is about to begin, and all the masters are assembling in Mingdu. You wouldn't want to miss it." Skirk's confusion hardened into suspicion. "You're going back on your word?" The Snow Empress looked helpless, as if she'd rather not be the one to force the issue. She'd been deep in seclusion, refining the Tao of ice and snow, preparing to condense her god position, and collecting power of faith from the far north's spirit beasts. If Skirk hadn't come and disturbed her, she would still be in seclusion. But her duel with Skirk had yielded much. She was now only a step from breaking through to true god. The final step could no longer come from merely isolated cultivation. "You want me to get involved? What's in it for you?" Skirk asked bluntly. She had planned to push Bai Shushu to full strength before entering the Grail War. Only then could Bai Shushu stand a chance of surviving. The Snow Empress wasn't a master. Why would she care so much? "The Holy Grail War itself has nothing to do with me," the Snow Empress said, expression cold and untroubled. "But someone hopes you will take part." "Who?" Skirk demanded. "No." The Snow Empress's refusal was flat and absolute. Skirk expected that level of secrecy. If the inviter were easy to identify, they wouldn't have used intermediaries. Still, she needed to know why anyone would push for her participation. This body was a memory construct. She could face death calmly. Bai Shushu was another matter. Skirk genuinely worried for her disciple. "Perhaps because it's more interesting," the Snow Empress said after a moment's thought. She knew Lu Jingming well enough to recognize his temperament. He liked spectacle and complication. He had no overt malice towards Skirk or Bai Shushu. Otherwise, he wouldn't be sending this message personally. If he wanted them involved, it was likely because it would make things more entertaining. Skirk considered that and, after a long beat, nodded slowly. She had already planned to take part in the Holy Grail War regardless. There were things she sought, greater strength, a chance for Bai Shushu to achieve what she wanted. The Grail was the most direct path. Win the war, and Bai Shushu could become the sea god who could then exact the vengeance she carried in her heart. Skirk, for her part, could return with her true body and draw power from another world. Her physique was extraordinarily adaptive. She could channel many energy systems. That adaptability had made her clan a target and had drawn the attention of Evil Rider, a calamity in the universe. To be noticed by Evil Rider, to be judged a potential threat, spoke to Skirk's immeasurable ceiling. "I understand," Skirk said at last. She took Bai Shushu's arm and turned away without further argument. Behind them, the Snow Empress and the Ice Empress watched them go until the figures blurred into the flakes. Whatever cataclysms might soon reshape the world, the far north would not be easily touched. The two empresses had reached a summit few could challenge. They would continue their secluded preparations, firm, stable, and ready to weather any storm. Chapter 279, The Girl and the Big Eater. After leaving the far north, Skirk guided Bai Shushu toward Dragon City. It was the nearest city to the far north and the logical stop for supplies. The road to the Sun Moon Empire was long. They needed maps and plenty of provisions. As a servant, Skirk could sustain herself on negative energy and didn't need much in the way of provisions. But Bai Shushu was different. She needed to eat like anyone else. They also wanted to gather news about the Holy Grail War and prepare for their next moves. Dragon City lay under a heavy blanket of snow, but the cold hadn't thinned the crowds. The market bustled as usual. Skirk and Bai Shushu slipped into the city with the flow of people and, strangely, went unchallenged by the guards. Skirk's beauty could topple kingdoms. She had the look of a fairy stepped out of a painting. And Bai Shushu, though young, was already striking. Together, they should have drawn attention, but almost nobody registered them. The guards at the gate ignored them entirely. Skirk kept a secret art of presence reduction active whenever she went out. The technique dulled others' attention and made people forget brief encounters. She always wrapped Bai Shushu in it as well to avoid hassle. There was no need to attract unwanted interest. It had saved them from many problems. A peerlessly beautiful woman and a cute, alluring child walking together would have invited trouble in any normal market. They converted the rare spirit beast materials and metals they'd brought from the far north into gold. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough for the next leg of their journey. They bought what they needed until their storage spirit tool was full, then prepared to leave. Then Bai Shushu spotted a crowd gathered in front of a restaurant. Voices and laughter rippled outward. Something had captured everyone's attention. The girl's curiosity, normally suppressed by her hatred and drive to grow stronger, nudged at her. With Skirk beside her, a sliver of her natural innocence peeked through. "Teacher." Bai Shushu looked up with wide, watery eyes and a pleading, expectant smile. She wanted to join the throng and see what the fuss was about. Skirk didn't want to get involved. Crowds spawned trouble, which was exactly why she kept her presence reduction active. Still, Bai Shushu's look was impossible to refuse, and when the child cheered, she ran off like an excited husky toward the center of attention. Skirk sighed and followed, keeping a cautious eye on the girl to avoid accidents. Bai Shushu forced her way to the front of the crowd and gaped. On a long table sat towering stacks of empty plates, an impressive, almost absurd pile. Seated before it was a tiny girl with skin white as snow, golden hair that shone like sunlight, and sapphire-bright eyes. She was devouring food with unrestrained delight. Her all-too-beautiful face and the ridiculous appetite she displayed made the scene unforgettable. Whenever she tasted something especially good, a single ahoj of hair on top of her head would perk up and bob happily, as if it had a mind of its own. Beside her stood a pink-haired girl who watched with a stunned expression, as if witnessing something impossible. Skirk arrived behind Shu and immediately focused not on the golden girl, but on the pink-haired girl. A blood-red command seal marked the back of the latter's right hand. Its pattern differed from Bai Shushu's, but Skirk recognized it instantly as a Holy Grail command seal, the sign of a master and the bond that links master and servant. The golden-haired girl's ahoj snapped upright like a wire. Her gleeful expression flattened into a hard, cold edge. Her eyes became like two blades of light, trained straight on Skirk. "Choo-choo, be careful. There's a servant," she warned. The golden girl was Altolia. With that warning, she rose in an instant, and a flash transformed her simple dress into blue and white armor. In a heartbeat, she had the bearing of a majestic sovereign. She made a gripping motion with both hands as if seizing a weapon, although to the onlookers there was nothing there. Nan Choo-choo, Choo-choo, hid instinctively behind Altolia. She knew the servant at her side was a king from another world, a warrior of overwhelming strength. Even her mother, Nan Shui-shui, who had broken into the titled Douluo realm, and her grandfather, the heavenly dragon Douluo, had not managed to overpower Altolia when they'd encountered her. Choo-choo trusted Altolia implicitly to shield her. The onlookers scattered like startled birds. On the Douluo Continent, Spirit Master skirmishes were not rare, and ordinary people had no stomach to watch powerful spirit abilities erupt in the street and wreck innocent lives. As the crowd melted away, the two figures, Bai Shushu and Skirk, came fully into view. Nan Choo-choo blinked, surprised to see them so ordinary-looking despite their air of refinement. She would have noticed them sooner, if not for the baffling fog of concealment. She only became aware of them once she could see them clearly. Skirk frowned. In the Tevat world, she'd met a few people who could deduce her presence from clues, but this was the first time someone had found them through pure intuition. Altolia's eyes were sharp and wary. She suspected high-level presence concealment or even an assassin. She tightened her stance to shield Nan Chu. "Teacher, what should we do?" Bai Shu whispered, flustered. She had been raised protected by her clan and knew little of the human world. In a sudden confrontation, she looked to Skirk. Skirk could feel Altolia's sword energy, powerful and authoritative. There was a hint of an invisible blade in the air, vast battlecraft honed by countless fights. Skirk would have welcomed the duel. Fighting a worthy opponent excited her. But this spot was all wrong. A full-fledged clash here would unleash destructive power across the city. Skirk wasn't cruel enough to put innocents at risk. She decided to leave. Before Skirk could act, a frigid pressure gathered. The air chilled so sharply the city seemed to freeze. Ice-blue sword ki lanced from the ground in jagged streams toward Altolia. "Wind King Hammer!" Altolia called and brought an invisible sword down in a thunderous strike. A hurricane of force whipped up, hurling shattered stone and debris into the ice-made blades. For a moment, the street was consumed by a violent, screaming storm. Sword chi and gale-force wind raged together, and the restaurant at the center of the commotion collapsed into ruin. Altolia paused. She, too, felt the sting of responsibility. Thankfully, the owner and most of the witnesses had fled before the worst of it. Otherwise, Skirk would have hesitated before acting. The storm died down, and the invisible sword Altolia had been wielding resolved into a real weapon. A brilliant golden holy sword with gems set along the blade, its majesty plain to see. Skirk used the chaos to open a purple-black spatial vortex. Quick as lightning, she scooped up Bai Shu and, ignoring the child's shrieks, shoved her into the portal with a backhand. "You won't escape!" Altolia's eyes narrowed. She released her power in full. With an earth-shattering boom, she appeared like a bolt of gold light before Skirk and slammed her divine blade down. The two weapons met with a ringing clash. Their swords blurred into afterimages, trading dozens of furious blows. The scattered sword chi ripped through the street and multiplied the collateral damage. Nan Chu stood beside Altolia, dazed by the sight. She couldn't track the blade shadows, only the constant sparks and the torrent of sword chi. Feeling two powerful auras bearing down on her, Skirk's own sword condensed into existence, an ice blade appearing in her left hand. Swordlight flashed, and the cold began to frost over Altolia's armor. Under the strain of intuition, Altolia dodged the worst of the strikes, but was pushed back. Skirk took the opportunity, stumbled backward, and the purple-black vortex swallowed her whole. In another blink, she and the portal were gone. A streak of lightning and pink light crossed the sky, and two familiar figures arrived, the tall elder and the pink-haired woman, the heavenly dragon Douluo and Nan Shui, the two titled Douluo who watched over Dragon City. When the city registered powerful spirit fluctuations, those two would answer. They paused, recognition passing over their faces at the sight of Altolia. "Chu, are you all right?" Nan Shui rushed to her daughter. Only when she saw her daughter safe and shielded by Altolia did she relax. "Mom, I'm fine. It looked like another master and servant, but Saber chased them off," Nan Chu said. Altolia, used to being called Saber, bent and picked up a small bag of gold coins left on the ground. She examined it thoughtfully. "They left compensation." Nan Chu stared at the bag in her hand, a little surprised. "They left money?" Nan Shui scanned the ruin around them and smiled. "Leaving compensation after causing destruction. Then maybe they aren't malicious." She seemed pleased by the gesture. Ordinary spirit masters seldom bothered to do something so considerate. Altolia's expression softened. "I misjudged them. If we had truly fought to the end, I might not have won." Everyone fell quiet for a moment, the ruined street and the scattered plates around them a mute testimony to the brief but violent clash. Chapter 280, Buli Ren, Ho Yu Hao. Holding the bag of gold coins in her hand, Altolia thought that if she hadn't been so aggressive and on guard, they might have been able to sit down and talk. Still, she didn't regret it. The Holy Grail War was brutal. You could never be sure who was friend or foe. Staying vigilant was sensible. Besides, the other side hadn't wanted to talk, had attacked outright and fled, clearly wary of them as well. The Holy Grail War? Nan Shui Shui asked. This time, the Sun Moon Empire changed the Soul Master competition format and specifically invited our sect, Old Heavenly Dragon. Do you think we should go? Nan Shui Shui frowned. Participating in the Soul Master competition could be a huge boost to the sect's prestige and future prospects if their disciples did well. She trusted the younger generation of the Tianlong Gate and the Earth Dragon Gate. They weren't top tier, but they were geniuses. Still, the war made everything complicated. She didn't want Nan Chu Chu dragged into danger. The sea god's position was too honorable. Who could blame other forces for salivating over a god position legacy? Heavenly Dragon Douluo's attitude was exceptionally firm. Of course we should go. In past competitions, only Spirit Master Academies had been qualified, and their sect had been excluded. This reformed contest was a rare opportunity. Heavenly Dragon Douluo had no intention of backing down. But you must understand, he added, voice darkening, the Holy Grail War will likely break out in Mingdu. Aren't you worried our Tianlong Gate disciples might get caught up in it? Nan Shui Shui hesitated. If they could place in the top 32, the Earth Dragon Gate would gain fame across the Douluo Continent. But the war was dangerous. Altolia's power was a reminder of how unpredictable things could be. If servants like her were common, the risk would be enormous. My Tianlong Gate doesn't have a master, Heavenly Dragon Douluo said with a laugh that had a hint of bitterness. People won't be targeting us. Nan Shui Shui's expression fell. Douluo's words struck a nerve. He'd always been stubborn. Dragon City was to him nearly as important as the sect's legacy. If the time came to choose between Dragon City and the sect, she doubted he'd give up easily. It's good you understand, he said more seriously, letting the smile drop. When it's time to withdraw, you must withdraw. The sect's legacy matters most. I know, Nan Shui Shui said. She wasn't foolish. She wouldn't blindly throw the sect into a fight they couldn't win. But could Douluo himself walk away? Would he choose the sect over Dragon City? Heavenly Dragon Douluo only shook his head and vanished like a bolt of lightning. Chu Chu, after the competition, take some people and set up a branch in Haiyuan City. Nan Shui Shui turned to Nan Chu Chu. Haiyuan City was a safe fallback. I understand, Mother, Nan Chu said, trying to sound calm, though her heart raced at the thought of seeing Lu Jingming there. Deep in the evil demon forest, beneath the ground in the Holy Spirit cult's hidden city, a chilling ritual was underway. A chorus of mournful wolf howls tore through the subterranean silence. On the sacrificial plaza, 500 black-robed believers drank a strange blood wine from goblets and began to howl, first human screams, then gradually morphing into chilling wolf cries under the blood moon's light. A mysterious force, born of a higher bloodline, was smothering and devouring their human nature. Muscles and meridians twisted and reshaped, skulls stretched and deformed. The pain was unimaginable, but these were fanatics who saw death as triumph, willing to endure anything for their faith. Zhongli Wu, the cult master, watched hungrily as the chosen believers transformed. Above him, Ye Shi Shui and Long Xiaoyao observed with tense faces, their gazes flicking to the blood moon that cast its strange glow across the chamber. Even titled Douluo felt the moon stir something wild in them. Only their iron wills kept them from succumbing. Those below titled Douluo were already consumed, eyes bloodshot, desire blazing as they stared at the newly changing cultists. At the front of the plaza, blood pupil Saint Huo Yuhao drank without hesitation. His cup held a thicker, more potent blood than the others. As it flowed through him, he felt it vaporize within his flesh. His body screamed while his spirit underwent a deep transformation. A roaring wolf cry burst from him, carrying a pressure that forced the lower-ranked evil soul masters to their knees, their minds bending as if controlled by an unseen force. The unfamiliar blood forced Huahao's spiritual eyes and his Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion spirit to merge. His spirit rings, his mental force, and his body were crushed and reforged by that force. Only the gem of sentience remained barely touched, still faintly glowing. Gradually, Huahao's eyes took on vertical pupils with a blood-red light, and mysterious ice-blue patterns crept across his skin. Near him, Xiao Wu, now calling him her lover, Xiao Mei, watched with worry as Huahao changed. A massive werewolf towered over the plaza, claws flashing, muscles bulged under dark gray fur. This was Hule, the Buli people's battle chief, the one whose blood they all coveted. He was the source of the blessing, and Huohao had chosen to drink his blood in pursuit of the Buli bloodline. Huohao's body had been incomplete for too long. Hulei's blood promised healing, a near-immortal body, and the chance to repair his defects. For evil soul masters who prized power above all, the risk of losing humanity was a small price for immortality and strength. Zhongli Wu and Ye Shishui had picked 500 true believers for the trial. Hulei had warned them the racial change would bring excruciating pain. Only those with iron wills could survive. The Holy Spirit cult's fanatics answered that call. Hulei's plan was grander: spread the Buli bloodline in this world. He liked Huohao's aptitude. He might be molded into a battle chief in this new world, to lead the Buli people to dominance. Hulei glanced at Xiao Mei and then at Huohao. Xiao Mei's power and life rank were higher, and in many ways she would have been a better subject, but her temperament made her a poor leader for the Buli people. Hulei's hope lay in a successor who could restore Buli glory, perhaps even Huohao and Xiao Mei's child. With a roar, Hulei ripped open his chest, exposing a beating heart. Blood streamed down, and the transformation of Huohao and the believers accelerated. Watching Hulei's chest knit itself back together in an instant electrified Zhongli Wu and the others. Silver-white fur sprouted on Huohao's body. His fingers lengthened into claws, and frosty qi swirled into a white mist around him. He swelled to over 3 meters, muscles like carved ice rock. Ice crystals sparkled in his fur, spikes jutted from his shoulders and elbows like natural armor, and a thick tail swung with gusts of cutting cold. His head took on a wolf's muzzle, fangs glinting like ice picks, ears pricked and frosted. Then, with a convulsive inhalation, that towering form contracted. Within the swirling frost, a giant werewolf shrank back to a human frame. Huohao controlled the change at will, thanks to his formidable willpower and now complete body. The white frost chilled the blood spilled when his throat was later torn, freezing it to ash. Hulei looked satisfied. Only someone who could control such power could serve as a Buli battle chief. But then, in a flash, a blood-red claw mark slashed across Huohao's throat. Heads turned in horror. Zhongli Wu and the others sprang up. Long Xiaoyao's face darkened, and he tensed to attack until Ye Shishui pulled him back. Xiao Mei screamed, hatred fueling her eyes as she stared at Hulei. To everyone's shock, even after his head was severed, Huohao spoke. His headless body bent, lifted its head, and calmly set it back onto its neck. The wound sealed instantly. The onlookers swallowed, their fanaticism only deepened. Very good. You received the full blessing, Hulei snarled. The blood Huohao had drunk was Hulei's heart blood. It was different, far more potent than the others had taken. Huohao's transformation promised greater immortality and power than the ordinary converts would gain. Huohao took stock of himself with a faint smile. The spirit eyes and the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion's power had fused with him. The gaps that had once marked him were gone. He was whole. He looked at Xiao Mei, a warmth rippling in him despite his cold exterior. Her gentle, motherly nature had always drawn at the part of him that missed a mother's love. Now that he had regained a whole body and the power to stand beside her, he had risked everything to drink Hulei's heart blood. Not just for strength and longevity, but to be a man who could truly be with the woman he cared for.